to NASCAR. The UEFA Champions League Final. The MLB All-Star Game. The UFC. NCAA Football. The NFL. And the World Series. The world's biggest events are on Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports!
Historic, rich in tradition. Tonight on Fox, it's where the action is. And if history is any indication, it'll come down to these two. Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin. They drive with an attitude. As fearless as they are entertaining. And you don't want to be in their way.
You better believe it. You better believe it.
Prime time is race time. It's NASCAR on Fox, and we welcome you to Richmond International Raceway, where the crowd likes the crowded conditions. The weather, chilly. It rained this afternoon, cool and cloudy, but clear so far. Kind of raw weather conditions for this time of year. On display tonight, Dale Earnhardt Jr., fastest in practice, will it translate in the race. Jimmy Johnson looking for his first victory of this season. And there's the pole sitter, 53-year-old Mark Martin with his 53rd career pole. Our Hollywood Hotel, parked in the middle of it all, and glad you're with us for the 9th race of the year, the quarter mark of the season, and prime time, the perfect time for a driver to make a statement. He's the Hall of Famer, Darrell Waltrip, two-time Daytona 500 champ, Michael Waltrip. And if Denny Hamlin or Kyle Busch are not in the picture when they wave the checkered flag, it would be a major upset. But tonight sets off a string of races, Darrell, that'll have fans on the edge of their seat.
I think so, Chris. I mean, everybody's complaining about there's not enough cautions, there's not enough action. Folks, we are going to the action tracks. Tonight, this place is just fast enough to be treacherous, and that's what we're going to see. We're going to see some good, tight racing. Next week, down at Talladega, you know what happens at Talladega. And, guys, I can feel it in the air tonight. Oh, Lord.
Caution flags.
You know, I need some elbow room when I race, and I've had it so far. These big mile-and-a-halves, you could get all over the place. Run high, run low. But that's all over, Chris. You're going to be tight confines tonight. You're going to be that way next week at Talladega. And then Darlington comes up. Man, it doesn't get much tighter than that.
All right, but the focus tonight, some guys, headline drivers that you would think would have a victory by now. We saw moments ago Jimmy Johnson. There's also Carl Edwards. Jimmy, the 5-time champ, and also Kyle Busch. Dale Earnhardt Jr. trying to end his slump. In fact, when we hit June, it'll be 4 years since Dale Earnhardt Jr. has had a win. And if he's going to get a win, either here or next week, 8 victories between the two would be the place.
Yeah, I talked to Dale Jr., and he's focused. He wants to get it done tonight. He knows he has a car that's capable of winning. Like you said, he was fastest in practice. He didn't want to talk about Talladega. He didn't want to talk about Darlington. He's focused on Richmond tonight.
He's good on the short. He's good on this short track. He should be good tonight. But there's a couple of guys. You take Casey Kane and Jeff Gordon, 2 teammates from Hendrick Motorsports. They are flirting with not making a chase. They are so far back in the points. If they don't get some wins, they could be in big, big trouble.
And that's a big, big story.
Right, 1/3 of the way to the chase, NASCAR's playoffs. And after a strong start, 3 wins for Stewart Haas. That race team made a little spring break hangover since Newman's Martinsville win on April 1st. Neither Tony Stewart or the Rocket Man have led a single lap or finished in the top 12. So have teams caught up with Tony Stewart and that team? Or maybe since they got those early wins, they were fine-tuning some things?
Well, here's what I think may have happened. That crew chief change with Steve Addington coming over to be Tony's crew chief. They got a lot of notes and a lot of cars that Darian Grubb built when he was there. I think they're at a crossroads. A crew chief wants to put his signature on the cars and on everything they do. They may be trying some of Addington's stuff, and that may not be working just right at this point in time, but they'll get it worked out when it counts.
2 races is all they've messed up. I don't think it's time to panic yet. Let's focus on what we got tonight, and they'll be fine.
Tony Stewart is the defending champ. Speaking of Tony, you know, on Tuesday, Daryl, you and him were part of Motor Racing Outreach, the charity event, donating time, and UFC fighter Johnny Hendricks went for a ride along with some others around Charlotte Motor Speedway. Johnny Hendricks fighting May 5th. You'll see him on Fox. A good cause.
Yeah, both of them are left-handers, and I was dodging some pretty big punches there from both of them. But we had the best time. We rode a bunch of people around, scared them to death. I said, I haven't been in a car in 3 years, and all of a sudden Tony's line got real long.
You sure do look good in a uniform still.
Tony said he was mad because I looked better in the uniform than he did.
You're in good shape, good conditioning. Charlotte will be the site for the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race on speed, and then a week later, the Coca-Cola 600, always a classic weekend. That's May 27th on Fox. Coming up here, around the turn, nighttime, the right time for good old Richmond. We'll look at why racing under the lights and here in the state of Virginia can bring out some of the craziness. Last week, Denny Hamlin in the 11 car, his second season, his second win of the season, and his teammate Kyle Busch can be rowdy in Richmond. We'll chat with him. We'll get expert analysis from some of your drivers on a different kind of drafting. And we'll just hang around because in Gas and Go, the ride is always fun. Hang on, DW. Fox from Richmond. What was that? We're glad you're watching NASCAR on Fox Primetime for Richmond, and Jeff Gordon, Kevin Harvick, two drivers starting in the top 10 looking for their first win of the year. Denny Hamlin, the only one who has a victory in that top 10 starting tonight, and fans clamoring for what this track provides. You touched on it, Derek. Tight quarters, smash mouth racing, fast action. It's been that way since Richmond's dirt track roots. The excitement here at this track conjures up excitement that never gets old. Richmond is short track racing under the lights, and it seems like those lights bring out a little animosity between our usually cool drivers. Remember last year, Ryan Newman and Juan Pablo trading some bars.
To retaliate the way he did, just didn't show much class.
And how about Tony in 2008?
We gave another one away today. Great attitude there, Smoke. We said enough of that crap.
This is also where Kyle wrecked Junior in the final laps of the race.
Was that a fair racing move, or does Kyle Busch need some extra security?
Whether it's fair or not, he's going to need some security.
And back in '86, it was the Intimidator who took out our own DW here.
You drive this race on the edge of your seat.
Now is when you show them what you got.
Richmond, when the lights go on, you never know what you're going to get. So what is it, Daryl? Is it the prime time? Is it the drivers? Is it the track that brings it out?
It's the design of the track, Chris. The way that front straightaway sweeps down into one. It's always tempting you. Get that nose in there. Scoot that guy out of the way. And then, Michael, after that, it's all on.
I think it's the location. Back in the 40s, it was a dirt track. People couldn't get off turn 2. They would get mad at each other. In 1986, Dale Earnhardt wrecked you off turn 2 because of an argument you guys had. Last year, Juan Pablo gets taken out. I just think it's where we're at.
Yeah, and so far the drivers this year, they've been well behaved. One good turn, always deserving another. So time for double trouble. So tell us where the hot spots are that we should be looking for tonight.
What I just talked about, turn 2. When you exit turn 2, there's a lot of room, like Daryl said, sweeping down into that corner. But when you come off there, it tightens right up. I guarantee you there will be contact coming off turn 2. And you know what's next, Daryl?
Well, that's where it starts. That's where you get mad. You get mad in turn 2. It's payback when you get to turn 3. All the big wrecks we see here, all the paybacks we see are usually right here at the end of that little short 850-foot back straightaway. Everybody gets all tied up off 2, and then it's payback when you get to 3.
They don't have enough time to get over it. It's only 850 feet, and there's a chance to run somebody over.
Yeah, no real hot tempers, but some teammates a little.
No, but what happens is a guy, somebody told me one time, they said, what happened? I said, I lost my temper. They said, I'm here to help you find it.
Kyle Busch has been known to lose his temper a little bit, and he celebrates his 27th birthday this week. When he was younger, his mom wanted him to be a dentist, and that didn't happen. Also, what hasn't happened is a win this season, and for a driver with championship expectations, that has to feel like a root canal. But Kyle has felt no pain here in Richmond, where he's won the last 3 spring races.
24 hours ago, Kyle and his brother Kurt were in victory lane. Kyle as the team owner. But let's spin forward to tonight. This has not been a typical Kyle Busch kind of start to the year. Does it all change with you in victory lane as the driver tonight?
I'd certainly like to hope so. You know, we've had a really good M&M's Camry being here this weekend in Richmond, and one of our best tracks, one of our most fun tracks that we like going to. So, you know, we'll see how it plays out. We start up front. That's kind of different for us. So we'll bide our time a little bit, see how things are playing out and how many cars are good cars. And we know Denny's good. It seemed like Mark Martin was good, Jeff. So, you know, we got to be there. And, you know, we got to show that we can run up front, lead some laps, and be competitive.
His numbers at this track, Chris, absolutely incredible.
Thanks, Krista and Kyle. But the numbers through the first 8 races of last year and this year, those are not good. And Darrell, if we go back to when he was parked, suspended last year, half of the races he hasn't even finished in the top 20. Does he need to be aggressive, that bad boy, to be successful?
Remember that interview I did with him back in Bristol? When I asked him about Texas, he said it scared him. He said, it scared me to death. He said, I had a vision of having to sweep floors. I didn't even know if I was going to have a job. I didn't know if I was going to have a ride. That scared that kid, and I don't know if he's gotten over it yet. I know it's changed him. It's changed him a lot.
Tonight's a big test for that young man. He won the race last night as a car owner. That Nationwide team's put a lot of pressure on him. It performed last night. He's phenomenal here at Richmond, winning the last 3 spring races. If he can perform tonight, he can put the slow start behind him.
Let's not forget one. The kid is 26 years old. He's not an old guy. He's a young man with a lot ahead of him.
27 in a few days.
Yes.
And you heard him mention that he's starting up front. He starts 5th. So good position for him at a track he likes to do well. And there's Denny Hamlin. As some of the drivers are getting ready for 400 laps, 300 miles on a cool, damp night here in Richmond. NASCAR on Fox pre-race show is sponsored by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
NASCAR on Fox is in Richmond on prime time. And it's going to get wild under the lights. Denny loves this joint. After posting win number 2 last week, can he keep the momentum going? Or will another superstar get his first win? No more Mr. Nice Guy, because these old boys, they're going to have at it tonight. It's short track racing, baby, right here on Fox.
Here in Richmond, there's Martin Truex, who lost out to Denny last week. Truex Jr. dominated the race in Kansas, fell short of his first win in almost 5 years. Denny Hamlin searching for his first championship, giving defending champ Tony Stewart a run for his money. Only Hamlin and Stewart have 2 wins so far this year. And for Denny, who just missed a title 2 years ago, his victory in Kansas last week doubled his win total for all of last year.
But Hamlin is hungry, man. Hamlin's going to be ready for it this time.
And here comes Hamlin. Look at Denny Hamlin there leading this race with that 11 in victory circle.
Everything's thumbs up for Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin delivers.
That's what I like to see right there.
And we welcome from down on the track the driver of the 11 FedEx Toyota, Denny Hamlin. Denny, thanks for being with us. You've had a lot of success here. What is it about this track that suits your driving style?
Well, I think it's tire management has a lot to do with it. I feel like I'm pretty good at the tire management, keeping the rear tires on the car, saving the front tires for later in a run. That part of it, but there's always a little bit of hometown motivation that comes into play too. So proud of our FedEx team for putting me another great car under us for tonight's race, and we'll see if we've got something to race with them with.
Denny, it's Mike. Back at Bristol, a solid Dougie in driver introductions. I don't know if you saw Darrell when he won the Daytona 500 come through with the icky shuffle. What's the dance for tonight if you're able to put your FedEx car in victory lane?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I'm working on my next stance for the following Bristol race. So I'm going to work with the track, try to give me a little bit more time, a little bit more stage lighting for it. And we're going to have something special. But I don't know. I got to work out something for my celebrations after a victory, though, because we got to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, Denny, at CW, you might want to stick with dancing with the cars. But the question is, last night, at any point at the end of that race when you were racing Kurt there, did you think about moving him out of your way?
You know, I actually thought that we caught him so quick, and we caught him, you know, the lead car is from 8 seconds back with 90 laps to go. I thought that it was going to be relatively easy once I got position on him, but he drove into turn 1 so hard that we started making contact, and the TV angle didn't really show it, but we started making contact on entry, and so I was kind of at his mercy that entire lap. of trying to stay off of him. But had it not been a teammate's car, I might have drove differently, and if it was for a cup win, I can assure you I would have drove differently.
All right, well, Denny, good luck. Thanks for being with us, and congratulations, too, on Thursday's Denny Hamlin Short Track Showdown, that charity event benefiting your foundation and children's causes as well.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great success.
And, of course, the kid from Chesapeake, Virginia, grew up about 20 miles from here, talking about some of that hometown luck. Well, for the next 8 months, virtually every Saturday night, Fox Sports will have primetime events. We, of course, have the race tonight. Then in primetime again in Darlington in 2 weeks, Danica Patrick running. And starting in 3 weeks, Baseball Night in America will take over primetime for 8 straight Saturday nights. So let's check in with our Baseball Night in America crew, Matt Vasgersian and Harold Reynolds. Sound like a professional announcer, Matt. What are you chuckling at? He takes
me out to the ball game.
Primetime, Fox, Saturday night. Why would you go anywhere else? We have racing tonight. We're going to ask our guys if they were holding a draft, which driver they would choose first. Carl Edwards starting outside the front row here in Richmond. He's in the top 10 in points, but hasn't won a race in 41 races. About a 2-hour drive from this track to our nation's capitals. We welcome you back inside the Hollywood Hotel. Robert Griffin III. He's getting accustomed to becoming a Washington Redskin, so we thought we'd ask some of the drivers to talk about their favorite NFL team and their draft choices.
My favorite NFL team are the 49ers, so we need to improve just a little bit, but they had a great year last year.
Drafting, I mean, we're getting ready to go to Talladega. You know, drafting is really important. The draft. Oh, you're talking NFL draft. Okay.
I was excited for NFL news and especially news on the Packers.
Saw my Packers get the DN from USC, Nick Perry, and looking forward to a good year.
I've always been a Dallas Cowboy fan. Grew up in Texas, and it takes a while for those guys to get back on the program after a couple bad years.
I'm kind of a Seahawks fan, and, you know, I know they just drafted a defensive end, I think, so hopefully that's going to help us.
Been a big Colts fan for a long time, so we've got the right choice for sure. It's definitely going to be a rebuilding year.
I think it's pretty cool to see what Andrew Luck can do. I'm a big fan of his.
I know all the Redskins fans are excited and expecting big things, and so am I.
And Joe Gibbs won 3 Super Bowls as, of course, a head coach, 3 Cup titles. So as an owner, Carl, he's accomplished quite a bit.
My Carolina Panthers got the best linebacker in the draft, and Luke Kuechly's going to make them better defensively. They got Cam Newton and Steve Smith. Going to be a good team, Darrell.
We got Kendall Wright. He's from Baylor. He's a good, wide receiver. We need some guys that can catch the ball. I think that'll help the Titans quite a bit. If I could draft a driver, though, it'd be Carl. That's my driver.
Terry and Howie better be careful here. All right, the first pick of the 2012 Gas and Go draft. If you have questions, they have answers. You're on the clock. And if you were starting a race team, he said Carl Edwards. Who would be your #1 draft pick?
Dale Earnhardt Jr. I was his teammate. I know what a team player he is. He'd be my pick.
Wow, really? How about somebody under the age of 30?
Well, then I'd take Kyle Busch.
Okay.
Yeah. But you know why I like Carl? He's got an attitude, but he can control it. I like that.
Fair enough. All right, Michael, points leader Greg Biffle only finishes outside the top 10 on short tracks. That's the only time he's finished outside the top 10 this year. Will that be a problem for him running for a championship?
Yeah, he hasn't won on a short track. You got to be able to compete everywhere, Darrell, to be the champion in this league. And so, yes, it could be a concern. Interesting to see how he runs tonight.
Short track, anything under a mile. He has 17 wins, but none in his career on a short track. All right, Darrell, for you, this week, once again, Jimmie Johnson, named by Forbes magazine as the most influential athlete. He edged out Tim Tebow and Peyton Manning. What is it we know about his championships that makes 5 times so special?
Well, he's marketable. He's represented our sport well. He's a great spokesman for our sport. And you know what else? Richard Petty is iconic with the 43. Jimmie Johnson is identified by the number 48. If you go online, you'll see that the iconic number, Jimmie Johnson, number 48.
Right. Likeable, genuine, and successful. All right, for both of you, and this comes from our fan Twitter question. At Trevor Carlson 8 asks, out of the drivers in the top 10 in points currently, who can't keep it up for the whole season? Who do you think will drop out?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't really think. I think we got our top 10 pretty set.
Because Ryan Newman's right in there at 10.
Yeah, we're at 9 races, though, and usually we're starting our 9th race. Usually by now we know who the top 10 is going to be. It's those wild cards I'd be watching for.
Somebody comes charging, though. We've always seen it. So if I'm 10th, 11th, 12th in that area, I'm really nervous right now.
All right, you can, at NASCAR on Fox, use the hashtag Gas and Go. We might use your question for these guys. All right, Michael, for you, after tonight's race, a quarter of the season will be over.
What's been the biggest surprise so far? Something wow you?
I think just the fact that our stars haven't been able to win races. Jimmy Johnson not to victory lane. We talk about that all the time, but man, these are guys that are championship contenders and multiple race winners from years past. They can't get to victory lane. I think that shows you how tough things are.
I think it's been the drivers have not been very aggressive. Okay. I mean, the racing, we've seen a lot of races with no caution. We've seen record speeds at races. We need the drivers to really get up there and get after it.
Well, they're starting to get a little angry now because the season's unfolding.
I can see it in there, feel it in the air tonight.
Yeah, well, Junior said we think we'll see cautions tonight. I don't know how many wrecks we'll see. Who do you like in tonight's race?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Denny. No, I'm going to go with Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon.
I'm Denny Hamlin. I'm thinking Denny does the Dougie.
All right, short track racing always
that would be
exciting.
The double too.
We'll count you down to the start of the race. It's moments away here on Fox. The skies are clear. The rain has stopped. It's cooling off as we take you trackside for opening ceremonies. Points leader Greg Biffle anxious to get rolling.
And now, Pastor Joe Ellison, Senior Pastor of Essex Village Ministries, offers tonight's invocation.
Let us pray. Eternal Father, we are so grateful tonight to celebrate 60 years of racing in Henrico County in Richmond, Virginia. God, we thank you tonight for our men and women who serve around the country, our brave warriors who defend our country. We thank you for our armed forces. Tonight, God, we ask you to protect each and every driver. Give them your wisdom. Give them your guidance. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing as service members representing the U.S. Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard from the Joint Culinary Center of Excellence at Fort Lee, Virginia, present our nation's colors. And now, please welcome the United States Air Force Heritage of America Band as they perform our national anthem.
Evening here in Richmond. You can choose which of the top 4 qualifiers will finish best. Text FAST to 34763 or go to AT&T fastestdriver.com to play. You'll have a chance to win 4 Gs, and Michael Waltrip will tweet during the race. Brought to you by the nation's largest 4G network. We welcome you back. Starting the NASCAR on Fox Richmond race here in just a moment. In Jeff Hammond's University of Farmers report, he enlightens us about working on a car under the lights.
Hey, it's race day, and teams and drivers that normally used to running during the daylight hours, which pretty much levels the playing field for both. But we're not racing under these conditions. We're racing under these conditions, at night, under the lights. And going from daylight to dark is not only a challenge for the drivers, but for the pit crews also. The shadows that are created at night can be a big problem for these crews. So the need for helmet lights, lights on your gloves, or even someone holding the light for you, like a tire changer or a gas man, is critical. Losing precious time on pit road is just as important at night as it is during a daylight race. The teams that are prepared, well, the nighttime could be the right time.
Thanks, Jeff. With Michael Waltrip, the conditions cooler than they have been. The rain has stopped. How does that affect the race, especially at the beginning tonight?
I was talking to some of the drivers and crew chiefs down in the garage area, Chris, and they're concerned about the start. The cool temperatures means fast speeds, and the rain means all the groove, all the rubber's been washed off the track. Could be dicey when they start this race.
Yeah, different conditions last week when we saw the sun come out, cars were loose. Are there certain drivers who handle loose cars better than others if we see that tonight? And are there certain race teams that adjust better to changing conditions?
I love the way Stevie Letarte adjusts Dale Jr. He's slow at times early in the race. He gets his stuff together at the end. He's been fast this year because of that. If I've got a loose car, I want to put Jimmy Johnson in it. You know, he spins out a lot. That means he's loose a lot, and he wins a lot. So there's something to all that.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. up there in points. And he said this week his crew chief, Steve Letarte, makes him more accountable. He's used to having family members. He said, I always speak freely on the radio communication, but it's different with a guy like Steve.
Yes, you got to respect your crew chief. It has to be a relationship where you can say anything and you still love each other. Dale Jr. has that.
All right, a front row, 0 for 8 this year. We have Mark Martin on the pole, Carl Edwards on the outside. So all that work to qualify, start up front, seems like so far this year when it comes to victory lane, it hasn't mattered.
But Mark Martin has the prime pit stall right there at the end of pit road. He can jump off pit road and be the first car to take the green flag on a restart. The same thing at Kansas with Truex. He had that front spot, and he kept gaining the lead because of that. So that's key.
All right, we know that Virginia native Denny Hamlin has dominated. Kurt Busch won here in the race last night for his brother, Kyle Busch. So they're all anxious to get rolling. Let's head back down trackside.
Race fans, it's time for the most famous words in motorsports. Welcome back the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Bill Bolling, as he delivers those famous words.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
Our third short track race of the year. We have 6 total. Fans seem to love it. Drivers, there's a lot of action. We actually probably should have more short track races. We'll be here to watch along with you, the best seat in the house. But let's join the guys who have great night vision, and they call the races for you every weekend here on Fox. Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds, Mike Joy, and Mike. Nothing like a short track racing on a Saturday night.
Well, as several short tracks, weekly tracks use in their advertising, the action is the attraction. Everybody expects that those races with only a few caution flags, that stat's going to get thrown out the window tonight. But what is it with Mother Nature? It was cold and windy at Kansas. It's cold and rainy tonight. I'm not complaining. I'm glad I'm here. But, Darrell, that's going to make things a little tough to get things heated up on this racetrack.
Well, it really will. With no rubber on the track's pretty green. You got sticker tires on the car. It's going to be hard to get grip for those first few laps. But what I love about short tracks, Mike, is you can reach out and touch someone. And tonight, we're going to see them do that.
Because of the rain today, we'll have a competition yellow at lap 50 for everybody to check handling and tire wear. Larry, you're fond of saying the trend is your friend. Maybe not so much tonight.
Yeah, if you look at the numbers of the trend here at Richmond, to win this race, it says you need to qualify in the top 10. I look at our top 10. They have 14 wins here total at Richmond. But what I'm going to be watching when they drop the green flag is outside the top 20, drivers like Clint Boyer, Matt Kenseth, our points leader Greg Biffle, and oh, by the way, the 2 drivers that's won the last 7 championships, Tony Stewart and Jimmy Johnson.
So a lot of big guns starting near the back, and they'll be in a hurry to get to the front. The engines are running and the temperatures are rising in Richmond. You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
Greg Biffle's kind of got an attitude right now. Keep an eye on that 16 car.
Jimmy Johnson, 5-time series champion.
That 48 car is pretty fast.
Carl puts the thrill in Thrill Seeker.
He amazes me at the things that he does.
Kevin Harvick, 29.
And after all, he's not the dominator. He's the closer.
Kyle Busch in that 18.
He got him, Busch!
He got him!
Wild Thing wins! Ready for a hot night of racing on a cool evening in Richmond. Rain through the midday, stopped in the 5 o'clock hour, and you see a little dampness down on the apron. No worries. We are ready to race. Here's tonight's Geico starting lineup. Mark Martin's 53rd career pole and Carl Edwards' 4th front row start at Richmond. A Toyota and a Ford on the front row, a Chevy and Dodge in row 2 with two-time winner Harvick and Allmendinger, who was 7th here last year. Kyle Busch, winner of the last 3 spring races here, and Jeff Gordon, a 2-time Richmond winner. Denny Hamlin's the hometown hero. He's won here twice. Martin Truex Jr., top 10s the last 5 races this year. Casey Kane got his first career win here. It came from the pole, and Dale Jr.'s won here 3 times. Eric Almirola made his first Cup start here. Ryan Newman, the fall winner in 2003. Kurt Busch, the winner last night in the Nationwide Series, and Marcus Ambrose, he's got an ailing back. Trevor Bayne will stand by in relief. Regan Smith with Brad Keselowski, 2 of Brad's 5 career wins have come on a short track. Dave Blaney, whose son Ryan was 7th in his Nationwide debut last night, and Joey Logano. And rounding out the top 20, Bobby Labonte, and last year's pole winner, Juan Pablo Montoya.
Let's see if we can get Carl on the radio. What do you say? Carl Edwards, it's DW. Got a copy, buddy?
That's loud and clear, DW.
Hey, man, nice qualifying run. Good-looking piece there, but we need some wins. Can you do it tonight?
Heck yes, we can do it. We got a fast EcoBoost Fusion. Got a lot of confidence. This track was good to us last year. Hopefully we can get out here, run some laps, and adapt to these changes. I think the track's going to change quite a bit, but I believe we can get a win tonight.
You know, Wayne Gretzky was another famous 99, and he liked to slip and slide. I think you may have to deal with some of that here for a while. What do you think?
That's perfect. Dirt racers from Missouri don't mind that, so I'm pretty excited. Hopefully it gets slick. Hopefully we have that classic Richmond race where, you know, guys are searching all over. But it looks pretty good here. Track's dry. Got a lot of fans here, and we'd like to put a forward victory lane.
All right, buddy. Elbows up. Get her done.
Hey, 10-4. Have fun.
That's Carl Edwards starting on the outside pole. Let's get downstairs, down to the chill zone along pit road, beginning with Steve Burns.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. As you said, 53rd career pole for Mark Martin. He's 53 years old. Late this afternoon on Twitter, he said, 31 years ago, I was on the pole here, but the motor wouldn't crank because somebody left a rag on the carburetor. He won't have that problem here tonight. His car was so good in practice yesterday, he thanked his crew. Let's go to Dick Berggren.
Well, Kevin Harvick is very good at this place. Last fall, he not only won the race, he dominated, leading more than half the laps. Same setup under the car tonight. Harvick rolls off 3rd. Matt Yoakum.
Dick, Matt Kenseth trying to be Larry Mack's trend buster, rolling off 24. Top 5s at Bristol and Martinsville, but he has struggled recently here at Richmond. He thinks that's all turned around. It'll be a huge test to that competition caution, but the biggest fight is trying to survive the bottom as everybody tries to get there where all that grip is, Krista.
Jimmie Johnson said he flat underdrove the car in qualifying, resulting in his worst starting position of the year 27. Chad Knaus said this track is a challenge for the team. Despite the 3 wins, he said they are in for a long, hard night. Jeff Hammond.
Thank you, Krista. That line behind me is a hit-out line. Win the race with that line, and it can help you wind up winning the race at the start-finish line. Mike?
Thanks, Jeff. You know, the orange box there, the orange cone, has the night off. Getting ready to race in Richmond, Virginia. Tonight's race brought to you by Budweiser, the beer that starts with the full flavor and ends with a crisp, fast finish. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Three-quarter-mile D-shaped speedway. Temperature dropping fast, 49 degrees. Just a little bit of a breeze to let you know how cool it is. And full overcast. 400 laps tonight. That's 300 miles around this D-shaped oval. Pit road speed 40 miles an hour. The pace car runs 45.
A couple of things, Larry. Trust your data. You know, you're talking about trends. Trust your data. And this kind of weather is great in the race car. Not so great outside the race car. Getting some heat in these tires and getting going.
Yeah, they'll have to be careful at the start of this race, especially on restarts when they put cool tires on their car.
The drivers like this track. Well, many of them do, and for many of them, it's a special place.
You know, Richmond's one of the most exciting places we go. Under the lights, nighttime.
Get to move around a lot. Race under the lights here is a lot of fun.
I still have the short track mentality of dirt racing that, you know, you sleep till 11 o'clock and then you get up and you race at night and go to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning. So definitely night races are right up my alley.
It has that short track feel, but has pretty good speed on it as well. So it's a fun place to race.
Adding a couple of pace laps here as the track deals with an issue on the back straightaway. The row of Musco lights down inside the backstretch have not come up and come on. So we're working with that.
We saw that at Texas a couple of weeks ago. Had a little issue with the lights. Surely they'll probably got a circuit breaker.
Yeah, that one was rain related. They found a transformer had shorter capacitor had shorted out. Got that fixed and got everything back to business. So a couple of extra pace laps. These are not counting.
Well, you heard Tony talk about he liked the short track mentality. This is a lot of light for a short track racer. You know, you go some little half-mile racetrack. This is good lights. We have had 2 great nights of racing here. Brett Moffitt won the K&N Pro Series East race on Thursday evening. Boy, that was a great one right down to the wire. And then the Denny Hamlin showdown was won by Tony Stewart over Jeff Burton and short track star Greg Edwards. Another close finish. Last night they came to the flag side by side. Kurt Busch driving for his younger brother, beating Denny Hamlin for the win. Tonight's Ford F-150 EcoBoost track facts. Ford has 28 wins here at Richmond, first on dirt, then the paved half mile, and now the 3/4 mile. Ford has led the point standings after 7 of 8 races in 2012. And take a close look, but not a listen, to tonight's pace car. It is the first all-electric powered car to pace a NASCAR Sprint Cup race. It's a Ford Focus. And just in front of the driver's door is the charging port, which has a neat little ring around it that lights up based on the percentage of charge you have as you're charging it. I took it for a ride yesterday. So did NASCAR President Mike Helton. I'll tell you, it's impressive. You know, it is, and that's a great accomplishment to have that car pace in the field tonight. But they're talking to the drivers right now. They're telling me, asking the drivers, are they comfortable with the conditions, with the lighting down the back straightaway? It looks good to me from here. I think the drivers will say it's good to go.
You know, Mike, our last 2 weeks of racing, we've run 901 miles. And, of course, we've had 5 cautions total in those 2 races. But if you look, here we go back to trends and numbers. The 2 races here at Richmond last year, a total of 23 cautions. 8 in the first race and 15 in the fall. I look at the 2 we've had here this week. Both times cars that come across this line, body slamming each other with tires smoking. Guys win by a foot or 2. That's it. Those flashing lights on the roof of the Ford Focus pace car will go out this time by. We are 1 lap from racing. There's our onboard cameras for tonight. I just love, don't you love short track racing? I mean, you can put your arms around the track. You can put your arms around all the cars. And I truly mean when I say you can reach out and feel like you can touch somebody. But Darrell, we've said it many times about this little 3/4 mile track. It's still a short track, but it's big enough that these guys can race with 43 drivers out there. It's fast, but not too fast. It's close, but too close. It's close. Backstretch lights beginning to come up. It's kind of like that movie Airplane. Just kidding. Green this time by. Mark Martin on the pole in Toyota. Carl Edwards Ford. Kevin Harvick Chevy. A.J. Allmendinger's Dodge. All 4 makes represented in the front 4 spots. Pace car makes the sharp left turn. No signal. To pit road. Darrell, it's short track Saturday night. Oh, baby. I am ready for some bumping and grinding. Green flags in the air. Baby, baby, baby. Let's go racing, boys. Harvick looks to the inside. Nothing there. Mark Martin holds the bottom. Edwards fights for grip up top. And Martin clears him with the lead. Harvick still inside of Edwards for second. Kyle Busch with Allmendinger.
4 cars under a blanket behind the leader of the first lap, Mark Martin. Carl can't find his way to the inside. He's going to lose a couple of spots here.
Yeah, you know, with the rain and everything, it's no surprise that bottom is the place to be right now. Carl finally finds a hole right there. He drops in. He's good to go now, but pretty clean start.
Denny Hamlin, Jeff Gordon, 6th place. New camera position on Hamlin's car. It's in the right front fender in front of the tire. Wonder how long that'll last.
He does too.
I think that verifies the closeness you were talking about.
Ooh.
Hamlin on the bottom, and here comes Truex with him. Behind them, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman, Earnhardt, and Kurt Busch. Hamlin shoots past Jeff Gordon and into 6th place.
Go back to the race at Kansas last week. Those 2 guys right there were riding with one of them, Martin Truex Jr. in a 56, battling Denny Hamlin. They battled for the win at Kansas.
I was really thinking Jeff Gordon's going to have a good night. He runs great here, and I think he's poised to get that 200th win for Rick Hendrick. I think he's the guy that can do it tonight.
Carl Edwards has passed Allmendinger for 4th. Mark Martin leads Kevin Harvick.
Talked to Kevin Harvick's team in the garage area earlier today. They pretty much changed everything on this 29 car before qualifying. Remember, they had qualifying after all their practice, so there's a lot of unknown things that are in this race car right now for Kevin.
Larry, the fast lap, 21:34, that's a qualifying lap. That's how fast this track is right now.
3 of the 4 Hendrick cars right together. 8th, 9th, 10th, Casey Kane, Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, my man Jeff Gordon,
Jr.
He's up on that outside by design. I think he didn't even try to get to the bottom. The car must be a little too tight.
Their teammate Jimmy Johnson back in 24th. He's gained only 3 positions since this one started. There's the 48 of Johnson behind Clint Boyer and battling Tony Stewart to the outside.
And a trend, Larry, I know we talked about this. At night, as cool as the track is, we think the track is going to tighten up. A lot of guys complain about their cars actually getting looser at night.
And that's different from what we used to fight here. And I think the big difference are these tires that they're running now.
Jeff Gordon. Now perhaps he can slot in line, and does behind Casey Kane. Kurt Busch has been right with the 3 Hendrick cars. And Eric Almirola in the 43.
Kurt drove a phenomenal race last night, won it. He and Denny Hamlin put on one heck of a show at the end of that race last night.
Marcus Ambrose in the yellow and black number 9 behind Kurt Busch was bothered yesterday by back spasms. And so Richard Petty Motorsports has Trevor Bayne, who raced here last night. No, sorry, he was not in last night's race, but he is here standing by in relief for Ambrose if needed.
There, we're watching this battle here between Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 and his teammate Jeff Gordon in the 24. Just looks like to me that Jeff has had a hard time carrying any speed running the bottom of the racetrack. He has to move up a groove.
Yeah, I think the car must be way, way tight, Larry, and he's having to slow it down to get it on the bottom. What are they saying, Matt?
DW, he hit on it perfectly. He's having to wait on the car. He said it's just terrible tight through the center. Cannot wait for that competition caution at lap 50.
Yeah, he's losing valuable time.
Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards. Edwards keeps coming back to the front. He started second, could not get in line until he was in 6th place. He's rebounded for 4th and chasing 3rd.
Well, let's see, we're at 12 laps here. It usually takes to about 20 laps for the balance of the car to start to show up. What you've got, start telling your crew chief what adjustments you need. So right now you're probably pretty happy with what you got, but you're going to start complaining here shortly.
Edwards keeps moving forward. He's up to 3rd behind Mark Martin's Toyota and Kevin Harvick's Chevrolet.
We felt like this would be a good benchmark to see truly where Kyle Busch in that 18, where that team's really at right now. 22 races since he won his last race. He's won the last 3 spring races here. So this, I think we'll know a lot where he's at after this race tonight.
Carl Edwards moving up. Mark Martin in front. Jeff Gordon slipping back. Trevor Bayne looking on, waiting.
NASCAR on Fox is sponsored by Sprint. Avoid a data dilemma with truly unlimited data. Go to sprint.com/speed.
22 of 400 laps complete on this 3/4 mile in Richmond, Virginia. Mark Martin leads. Carl Edwards now second. Kevin Harvick third. Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin. 3 Toyotas, a Ford, and a Chevy in the top 5. And Edwards is closing right down on the leader.
Yeah, Carl's a little quicker right now. He's catching Mark. Mark slowed down a tad. Carl speed up a tad. And they're getting ready to catch the back of the field. This ought to get exciting.
This is the most laps that Mark Martin has led at Richmond in this century. 1999, he went 74 laps.
That just doesn't sound right.
Well, it's been 31 years since he won his first Richmond pole, and he won another one yesterday.
You know, I know Carl Edwards running in second right now in that 99 car. He's never won here at Richmond in the Sprint Cup Series. But if you go back to last year, he did finish in the top 5 both of those races, including finishing second to Kevin Harvick in the fall race.
I tell you, always, Larry, and you know, a good indicator of how somebody's going to run is how they qualify. And Carl up there on that front row missed the pole by about 5 1/1000ths of a second over Mark. Felt like he was going to have a pretty strong car tonight.
They've lapped past Stephen Light, driving Joe Falks, 33.
See Mark there, he kind of stepped out in the back end, did off turn 2. That's what these guys have been fighting most of all practice. So, Michael, what are you seeing in your area down there?
Well, Darrell, in order to have success here at Richmond, you really have to run that white line, the yellow line right on the bottom of the racetrack. That's the groove. You know, we were at Kansas last week, and these guys were running right next to the wall. Here it's a different story. Mark's car is wobbling around a lot. It looks like he's loose, and Carl's eating him up right now. But there isn't a whole lot of options here. You can make it work on the high side, but the bottom's better.
Rookie Josh Wise in the 26 trying to pass David Stremme, and here come the leaders right on top of them. They stay to the high side, and Martin has passed Stremme in the 30, and now is going to put the rookie Wise a lap down.
Yeah, Carl is he's sitting there, he's waiting. He knows he's a little quicker. Get through the traffic. What do they say, Matt?
DW says the cars are rocking right now. His only concern, as Bob Osborne, are the rotors glowing as he fights for that lead on the bottom. He says, nope, it looks good. Just keep me posted.
Yeah, he's not using a lot of brake right there. He's using mostly gas.
Edwards, another look to the inside, and Mark Martin gives him room. Carl Edwards off turn 4, becomes the second leader of this race, and puts his Ford out front.
But see what Mark did? That's why he finishes. He may not win every race he runs in, but he finishes every race he runs in. Carl's quicker. Mark's car's gone off a little bit. You can see that off in 2. Let Carl go.
Yeah, I think that's one reason Carl Edwards is able to pull away from him. Mark goes to put the throttle down off the corner in that 55 car. You can see the tail just jump out with him.
Scott Speed has gone to the garage. So has Mike Bliss, and they're now joined by Cole Witt in the 74 there. Steve Burns.
Just heard Mark Martin say, I'm rolling the center well, but I'm getting loose off the corners. Loose off is what he told Rodney Childers.
And here a lot of cars are talking tight, tight, tight. Why you get loose off the corner is because you're tight in the middle, and you got to turn the wheels really hard left when you put the throttle down, and the back wants to snap out.
I think we'll probably see a good picture of loose off here as we follow Mark Martin ride with Kevin Harvick in the 29. You'll see the tail end wanting to go out on him.
And it happens, and you see what's happened to Mark. 5 laps ago, he's leading the race. Saw him there wobble off the corner. 5 laps ago, he's leading the race. As soon as that car goes loose on him, he's done. He's got to slow down and let people go.
And you hear Harvick stutter in the throttle coming up off the corner. That's nothing wrong with the engine. That's right foot, Darrell.
Yeah, it is. It's just what, it's what the drag racers call pedaling it. And that's really what you're doing. You're just trying to get some traction up off the corner by playing with the throttle.
Three Toyotas in the top 5. There are Toyota top performers. Mark Martin, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, with Martin Truex in 8th.
Just saw Kyle Busch let Denny Hamlin go by over in turn 3. Denny must His car's pretty quick right now. He's going to go up and work on Mark Martin.
And we talked about Kyle Busch earlier in that 18 car. His teammate Denny Hamlin 11. Those two drivers, they've won 5 of the last 6 Richmond races.
Steve?
Just heard Mark Martin come back to Rodney Childers and say it's starting to give up big time now.
And we can see it, Steve. I mean, the car is really just jumping out from under him off both corners, and you just can't go anywhere like that.
Carl Edwards, our leader, while Jimmy Johnson tops the list of big movers. Krista, he's gained 10 positions.
Yes, he has, Mike. He's not wasting any time getting to the front. When I talked to Chad Knaus today, I asked him specifically about how well Jimmy manages his brakes, but Chad Knaus, the crew chief's advice to his driver just now, keep the cheeks of the pads from potato chipping the rotors. The pads may reach a temperature of about 1,800 degrees.
Jimmy Johnson, after qualifying poorly, came on his radio and said, well, that's a good example of underdriving your race car.
Yeah, his time trial lap was pretty underwhelming. Allmendinger 7th, Casey Kane now 6th after starting 9th. 38 laps of 400 complete in Richmond. Carl Edwards has become the second leader of this evening.
You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
NASCAR on Fox is sponsored by Ford, proud sponsor of NASCAR. By Coca-Cola, it's time to refuel. Coca-Cola, open happiness. And by KFC, come in today and taste why fresh is better.
47 laps complete. Carl Edwards out front, but this is the battle. This group was 3 wide going into turn 1 last time by. Brad Keselowski, Marcus Ambrose, and Dale Jr. And then Almirola in the 43 found some running room.
Yeah, well, Junior put the bumper to Almirola there just a second ago, and Almirola said, I got to get out of here. Watch
Here's
this.
a look at it.
Little push right there, trying to split between Almirola and the 9. Got into the 43 just a tad right there.
they closed the door for Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that 88.
Tight.
Second and third, Harvick, Hamlin.
There you go. That's that reach out and touch me camera right there.
That's second place, about 2.8 seconds behind Carl Edwards. One more lap, and we'll have the competition caution that NASCAR has said they would throw at lap 50 because of the rain that pelted this track and gave us a green racetrack for tonight's race.
You know, looking at our leader, Carl Edwards in the 99, as we look at this battle for 4th place between Casey Kane in the 5, we're riding with him, and Kyle Busch in the 18.
Yellow's up.
First caution flag of the night. What will they do? Matt Yoakum.
Well, Carl Edwards trying to end that winless streak dating back to Vegas of 2011. The car has a slight vibration with the brakes, but his biggest concern, trying to get the car to rotate through the center. Slight air pressure change on the 99, Dick.
Well, Kevin Harvick had not practiced the setup that's under the car this spring. He did run pretty close to it last fall. It's a bit loose in the middle and a little bit tight coming out. Steve Burns.
Dick, Kyle Busch said he, like Mark Martin, is loose getting off the corners, and he has called for the chassis adjustment. He told crew chief Dave Rogers, let's lower that track bar. Chris Kubota.
Well, Steve, right now, Jimmy Johnson is pretty happy with his car. He told crew chief Chad Knaus, if you can fix the rear end of this machine without affecting the center, we will be, quote, golden.
Biggest gainers in this first 50-lap run. Clint Bowyer up 9 spots. He's climbed to 14th, and Jimmy Johnson has gained 10 positions to 17th from 27th. Dave Blaney was the first car 1 lap down, so he's the Aaron's lucky dog. You don't need credit. All you need is Aaron's. So we'll come to the pits with 30 cars on the lead lap.
You know, guys, this is a major pit stop here. the crew chiefs now have information from their drivers on how to adjust their cars. We've seen guys sliding all over the place. Darrell, it'll be really interesting to see who makes the right calls here. We need a fast pit stop, maybe a little air pressure, maybe some track bar. Do you dare pull the spring rubber out? That takes a little longer.
Well, the good news is the guys that qualified up front, they're going to have the big advantage because they got the best pit selections. That will pay off. They'll have a little bit more time to make those critical adjustments.
I think we'll see all these drivers, for the most part, go with 4 tires. We may see some that's back at the back of the lead lap cars possibly roll the dice too. I don't think that's going to be a big gain, though.
Coming off pit road, it'll be Edwards, Hamlin, Harvick.
And just like we anticipated, you see right there all the drivers in the top 10 for sure, 4 tires with some adjustments.
If you didn't give me 4 right then, I'm coming back in and getting them other 2.
Or not leaving until I gave them to you.
Leave until you give them to me.
Down to Chris Myers.
Well, Carl Edwards came into this race having led only 1 lap. Remember, he was in the championship battle last year before falling to Tony Stewart. Fastest lap so far, he's leading. Does he have to change anything here?
That's a great question, Chris. The track is changing and the rubber's building up in the turns, so that will cause the cars to handle differently. But what do? How do you work on the car that's running the fastest laps?
Looking for his first win. Meanwhile, Mike Holsitter, 53-year-old Mark Martin, who led the first 29 laps. 13 drivers were not even born when he ran his first Richmond race here 31 years ago.
That's quite a story of longevity, Chris, in this series, running at the highest level. And boy, Mark Martin, he's got an energy boost this year.
He really does. He loves his team. He loves the car. He and Rodney Childress work so well together. Great communication. This car is fast every week. Right off the truck every week.
One car did not pit. Travis Kvapil came around, and he is hitting pit road this time by. We'll double check, but I believe he stayed out to try to lead a lap and pick up that 1 bonus point. Let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Fastest lap of the race, Mark Martin, 21.34. And our point leader, Greg Biffle, coming into tonight's race. Get unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with live in-car audio and real-time stats. Available through the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app on your Android-powered device. Only on the Sprint Network. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Travis Kvapil's given away some of those spots that he gained by making a pit stop as we get ready to go back to green. Completing lap 56, green flag, and Carl Edwards. Boy, scoots away from Denny Hamlin and the crowd.
Carl was hit that eco boost right there and took off. Oh, trouble down here, guys.
Yeah, Kurt Busch got into somebody or something, almost into the back of Jeff Gordon, way up the racetrack, 3 wide.
Boy, they're still kind of trying to figure that mess out.
Yeah, Burton on the bottom, Gordon up top,
Gordon's
and in the middle, Smith.
Something wrong with Gordon's car. He's got a problem. Must have a tire down.
And I believe Kurt Busch in the 51 has a tire rub as well. You can see the smoke.
Jeff Gordon's whole right side is torn up, Larry. The whole right side of his car is messed up.
We stay green. A lot of contact. I believe the first contact between Busch and Gordon may have done that. Second place, Harvick and Hamlin slug it out. And for 4th place, Kasey Kahne and Kyle Busch. This is short track action.
And now you know why people they don't like cautions for the wrecks. They like cautions for the restarts. The restarts are crazy.
And Jeff Gordon, who had dropped 9 spots in the 50-lap green flag run, is back on pit road under green and will lose a couple of laps here.
So let's figure out what happened
here.
Yeah, here's Gordon right down here. He gets loose. Oh, he gets into
Biffle.
He gets into Biffle and Kurt Busch.
Yeah, Kurt Busch in the 51 had nowhere to go. He just drove into him.
I think it was Biffle and Gordon that really kind of got together and started Gordon up the hill, got into Busch, and Jeff's had the worst end of the deal.
And there, it looked like Busch had to lock him up to keep from running into the back of Gordon.
Yeah, well, Jeff Gordon's got a tire down. You can see right there, 43 got him a little bit, moved him up. A couple of different deals.
We stay green. Kurt Busch stays on the racetrack, and Jeff Gordon goes 2 laps down with that pit stop.
And you can see the tire continuing to rub on Kurt Busch's car. What they're hoping so much for is a caution and maybe stay on the lead lap, but he's falling all the way back to the 28th position right now.
He just doesn't have a whole lot of damage on that car either, Larry. I mean, it's maybe that left rear rubbing just a teeny bit, but I think he's going to be okay. Not anything on the right side of the car.
Matt?
And Mike, it was a cut in the sidewall of the 24 of Gordon.
The second time this year that's happened. Remember Bristol, where his teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr. got up and into him, and a tailpipe cut the tire.
Well, you know, the start of this race has really been his demise. He fell back, he got in traffic, they got to come back out in the middle of the field, and he gets run over.
The start of this season has been his demise.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it has absolutely been a disaster for Jeff Gordon. Blown engines like in Kansas last week.
Let's get back to the front, and Carl Edwards, who now has 1.2 seconds on Kevin Harvick. That's what a 1.2 looks like. Harvick is driven away from Denny Hamlin. First, second, third. 64 laps complete. .72 laps complete at Richmond. Carl Edwards now leading by 1.9 seconds over Kevin Harvick, who has 1.1 on Denny Hamlin. Just in front of Allmendinger and Kyle Busch. Here's Tony Stewart, who's moved up to 11th from 22nd. You can go to ChevyOutdoors.com and enter for a chance to win a Chevy Silverado and a day of bass fishing with Tony Stewart at his home. Enter now at ChevyOutdoors.com. Krista?
Tony Stewart a tick tight in the center, but after the wedge adjustment they made on that stop, he did come on the radio and tell his crew and crew chief Steve Addington it's taking off much better now, a lot better drive off the corner.
And they had a really good pit stop for Tony Stewart on that caution.
And Larry was with him Tuesday over at Charlotte Speedway, did a charity ride for MRO. We had the best time. If you want to hang out with somebody and have fun, just pure old fun at a racetrack or anywhere really, fishing or whatever, he is your man. He's a cool guy to be around.
A.J. Allmendinger with a mirror full of Kyle Busch. Steve?
Mike, this is the same car they ran in Phoenix. His crew chief, Todd Gordon, said they set him up too loose. They learned from that race. He's been running in the top 5 all night. He says he just needs a little bit more forward bite.
You know, in the last 6 short track races, Allmendinger has only 1 finish outside the top dozen. Really coming into his own as a short track racer. He is, of course, a road race specialist.
Needs a win, man. That would just change everything for him. If he could get a win, I think it'd just make all the difference in the world to that young man.
Kasey Kahne has a new buzz cut. He was showing it off for the folks on speed this morning. Up to 6th from 9th. And right behind him, the fella everybody's talking about, Martin Truex Jr. Boy, did everything he could to try and win that race last week. Came up just short.
So far, we haven't mentioned anybody that doesn't need a win really, really badly. That would just change everything. Martin is one of them. Great run last week. Really was kind of anguishing over that one getting away from him. But he still had a great day. Finished second.
Brad Keselowski has just moved past our pole sitter Mark Martin. So Brad K is up to 8th from 16th.
Yeah, you see Mark Martin in the 55 car talked about him being our pole sitter back in the 9th position. I get a feeling right now they've got a lot of adjustments they need to make on Mark's car. He's got a fast car, but it's just not staying with him right now.
Tony Stewart up into the top 10, then Ambrose, Earnhardt, and Johnson. Jimmy Johnson restarted 23rd and has gained 10 spots since. And he's looking for a couple more as Junior goes to the inside on Ambrose.
Things aren't looking too bad right now. Earnhardt's up to 11th, Johnson's 13th, and Kahne is 6th. So Rick's got his guys moving in the right direction. Rick Hendrick.
Johnson moves into 12th. How about Ambrose, Dick?
Well, he hasn't said anything about his back, Mike, once the race started. But before the race started, Ambrose told me he had never gotten out of a race car because he didn't feel well before, and he didn't intend to get out of this one tonight. Trevor Bayne, on the other hand, is anxiously sitting on the box, waiting for his opportunity to get in that number 9.
Mike, when we get in these cars, these seats are like lounge chairs. They're custom made, custom fit. That's the most comfortable he probably could be sitting in that race car.
Last year's Daytona 500 winner without a full-time Cup ride. Trevor Bayne still drives the 21 for the Wood brothers, but they run a limited schedule. Last year's pole sitter, Juan Pablo Montoya, 14th after starting 20th.
He just needs to stay away from Ryan Newman and he'll be fine. He and Ryan Newman, whoa, look at that pass. Woo.
Yeah, Kyle Busch in that 18, he had been working A.J. Allmendinger over in that 22 for a number of laps. He just took the 4th spot away from him.
Gets a nice little run right here. A.J. gets up the hill a tad. I think this is some co-opetition right here. Look at those brake rotors. He really pounded that corner, drove that thing down in there, got hard on the brakes. I think A.J. cut him a little slack getting in.
A little bit of professional courtesy right there, as we're 86 of 400 laps. Carl Edwards has a 2-second lead.
NASCAR on Fox is sponsored by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds.
92 laps complete at Richmond International Raceway. Hopping gap past Reed Sorensen there in the 32. Carl Edwards out in front by a little less than 2 seconds on Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and A.J. Allmendinger.
One thing I said this past week about Carl Edwards in this 99 team is they need to get in a position to start leading some laps. Up until tonight, he had led 1 lap, and that was through a transition of green flag pit stops at Kansas. Looks like they've responded tonight because they've already led 63 laps.
Mark Martin led the first 29. Travis Kvapil led 1 lap during the competition caution as we cycled through pit stops. And Carl has led the rest. But company's coming. Here's Martin Truex battling Brad Keselowski. Both of them have already been passed by Tony Stewart. Marching to the front, and Jimmy Johnson makes his presence known in the 48 in the top 10 for the first time tonight.
Yeah, these two guys, Stewart and Johnson, both qualified poorly, but they're making up track position now by having pretty good race cars and passing a lot of race cars.
There was a point in time trials yesterday when it looked like the track had lost all grip, and a number of drivers who'd been very fast in practice were caught way outside the top 20 with slow qualifying laps. And then right at the end, Mark Martin comes in and puts it on the pole to show everybody there was nothing wrong with the racetrack. So here are the drivers that have moved from the back toward the front tonight.
A couple of those drivers we talked about at the top of the show. We felt like they had good race cars. They just didn't qualify that well. Jimmy Johnson, the 48, Tony Stewart in the 14.
Of course, Paul Menard's in a backup car, so that's a nice, he's doing a nice job too.
Stewart dives to the inside of Casey Kane and moves up to 6th.
That Stewart car right now is on a rail. I mean, you saw him there. He just drives it in the corner. You don't see a lot of brake heat, a lot of hot rotors on that car. He's just floating it down in there and getting back in the gas.
You know, Tony Stewart was asked this week, is Richmond one of your favorite tracks? He said, no, it is my favorite track. Of course, it's where he got his first career win back here in 1999.
Next week, it's a whole different kind of race. The Aaron's 499 at the world's fastest speedway, Talladega, Alabama, next Sunday.
It's a dadgum nail biter is what it is. I mean, even from up there watching it in the booth, my blood pressure goes way up.
Let's check with Krista.
An update on our points leader, Greg Biffle. You know, he said even though the results don't show it, this place has been fairly good to us. But what's most important is comfort. Right now, he's still sort of searching for it. But his race car is just a little bit too loose.
Now, Krista, he's 23rd. He's gained 5 spots since the start of the race. But But no, the car just hasn't seen the sort of speed. Right now, his laps are about 7/10 off those of his teammate Carl Edwards, who's leading.
One thing we want to keep a watch for is right front tire failures. When you use a lot of brake here, you see those glowing rotors. That creates a lot of brake heat. That transfers into the wheel and into the tire, and you can blow out a right front tire here if you get that too hot.
Riding with Clint Boyer, who has just passed Montoya, and pulls away as he gets on the gas in the, I don't know why we call it a straightaway, because there's nothing straight about it on this D-shaped racetrack. And Joey Logano is going to go down a lap to Carl Edwards. Logano is the 29th place car.
And oh, by the way, we don't run interliners here. The tires don't have the interliner in them here. Again, that interliner would even be more heat that the tire would have to deal with.
Only one caution flag in these first 102 laps, and that was the NASCAR competition yellow to check tire wear and handling. So we crossed through 100 laps, quarter distance, with Carl Edwards leading. Want a chance to introduce a driver at the All-Star Race May 19th in Charlotte? Go to sprint.com/speed to find out how. Carl Edwards' lead has shrunk to 1 second over Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin. Tony Stewart now up to 4th. He passed Kyle Busch. And Stewart right now and Harvick and Hamlin are the quickest cars on the racetrack.
And there are 3 cars that have broken into the top 10. Stewart, who started 22nd, Johnson started 27th, and Keselowski started 16th. Otherwise, your top 10 runners are guys that started in the top 10.
Jimmy Johnson continues to move forward. He's gained 20 positions since this race started. He passes A.J. Allmendinger. Make that 21, 6th place.
Yeah, I think that competition yellow at 50 laps was really a good thing for Stewart and for Johnson. They made nice adjustments on their cars, picked up some spots in the pits. They're sitting on ready.
Of the drivers right now in the top 10, 5 of them started last year's race 20th or worse, including Kyle Busch, who won the race from 20th starting spot. So starting out back, not a big problem here. It's a cool night in Richmond. The temperature barely at 50 degrees. And temperature was on Carl Edwards' mind tonight, as he and Bob Osborne discussed.
Remind me about this oil temp. I'll keep a good eye on that tonight. How's the temperature down there, Bob? Chilly. What's the temperature there on that dash, buddy? 250, saying 250. And 410, 4250.
250-degree oil temperature.
That's not bad, as long as it doesn't keep going up. But I think these drivers and their teams got so aggressive tonight.
Trouble. Right here, 51 car around on the front.
Yellow, we got a spin.
Kurt Busch has spun coming off turn 4 and clouds up the front straightaway, and that'll be our second caution of the night. It comes out at lap 116.
The way the car is wobbling, looks like something's wrong with the car. He was wobbling around, but maybe he's just trying to figure out the tires.
Remember, he had that damage from after that restart with Jeff Gordon earlier.
He's coming all by himself, and you see this happen here occasionally. Just a 360, catch a gear, and keep on going.
But Darrell, that's been the trouble spot for a lot of drivers all weekend long.
Now, let's go back to the earlier incident that involved Almirola Biffle, Jeff Gordon, and the 51 at Busch. Right there.
Yeah, Gordon was rocked between 2 hard places. Almirola got into him, shot him into Biffle.
Now, in this case, Darrell, I think Kurt Busch was running hard to stay ahead of Joey Logano, because Kurt was the first car 1 lap down, and had a caution come out, he would have gotten the free pass. Of course, now he is the caution. So that takes him out of that equation. Pit road is open. Krista.
Well, Tony Stewart has certainly been on the move. He told his team the exit was better on that run. I can get back to the gas better, make the same adjustment. Dick?
Kevin Harvick in the upper right of your screen. He has been running in the top 3 all night long. He has nobody in front of him. It's a great place to bet. Matt.
More rubber working in the racetrack. The car's getting more free. Carl Edwards, track bar adjustment, and also the 11 and Denny Hamlin, significant adjustment. Steve.
Big adjustment for Kyle Busch also, Matt. They pulled a spring rubber out of the right rear spring because his car has been tight. They also want to help him turn better.
Carl Edwards wins the race off pit road from Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick. 119 laps complete in the Capital City 400 presented by Virginia is for Lovers. Kurt Busch's spin brings out the second caution of the evening.
NASCAR on Fox is sponsored by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible.
Getting ready to restart lap 121. A tire got away from Paul Menard's crew. Eric Pringle, the tire carrier, went to retrieve it, so he'll restart out back. Joey Logano got the free pass. 27 cars on the lead lap. Carl Edwards, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, Earnhardt, Keselowski, Kane, and Truex, the top 10. We're back under green. Edwards very quickly back in command. Hamlin settles in second, side by side for third.
I can see why not a lot of guys are trying to go real high up on the racetrack. There's a lot of rubber and dirt. You can see it there at the top of the screen. The track is really dirty up out the groove.
Still side by side for third with Kevin Harvick, the number 29 inside. Kyle Busch, who gets that good drive off the top lane from turn 2.
I think they just like to aggravate each other. You know, I think it's like, hello, remember me? I'm still around.
They do not exchange Christmas cards, those two.
Not at all.
Tony Stewart in that 14 car, I mean, he is on the move. He goes through the middle of the corner and gets off the corner so good.
It looks like he never touches the brake, Larry. The car just rolls in there, and he is right back after it.
Stewart is there, and right with him, Earnhardt and Truex and Jimmy Johnson. Track cooling down, getting actually a little quicker here. Denny Hamlin just ran his fastest lap of the race, as did Tony Stewart and Matt Kenseth.
One thing we're seeing, the cars are fast on new tires, but boy, these tires go away in a hurry. About 15 laps, and they start getting loose.
Which really puts a premium on restarts. Get what you can get while you've got the tires that'll do the job.
That's what it looks like, Mike. Everybody's really aggressive on these restarts.
We've talked about drivers that's been started at the back that's been moving up. You see Matt Kenseth there in the 17. He's in the top 10, started back in the 24th position.
Well, Tony Stewart, you know, over the last part of the last year, he was the king of restarts. But let's see how he looked on this last on this coming to green.
Well, here's Stewart. He's going to spin the tires a bit here, and that's going to back things from 5th place on up, you see.
Man, that thing just jumped out from under him.
A lot of that has to do with air pressure and just cold tires. But, boy, we've got so much racing going on out here right now.
This is for 13th place. Montoya, Boyer straight ahead, the black and red car, Keselowski in the deuce, and you ride with Casey Kane.
A bit of a gaggle.
And that settles out as Burton goes after Allmendinger. And let's have a look at this fresh off the wire. Paul Menard's crew loses a tire. That's Eric Pringle, who grabs it, brings it back, because that one's got to go on the car. Oftentimes the tire coming off gets away. And there was quite a discussion with the NASCAR officials about running out into the middle of an active pit lane.
All right, I'm going to say it one more time here. If somebody does that again, you
will not work for RCR ever again. Unacceptable.
So Paul Menard was able to restart and stay on the lead lap. He's currently 22nd. And that's what's fresh off the wire, served to you by KFC. Come in and taste why fresh is better.
That was Slugger Labby, the crew chief on that 27 car, and the official had a hold of that guy. The guy was trying to get away, and you saw the official up in his face explaining something to him.
Yeah, I don't think Slugger Labby was upset about the tire getting away. It's what happened after that.
I think you're right, Larry.
Mark Martin, Matt Kenseth in the 17, and Ryan Newman in the 39. This is for 10th place.
Boy, Mark's car just not what it was when this race started.
Kenseth trying to gain some ground on the outside, Matt.
Mike, he was in a similar position as Jeff Gordon over that first run before the competition caution. The car absolutely plowing, no grip whatsoever. Jimmy finished, made some significant changes on the last two stops. The car has really come in, Steve.
Well, Matt, Mark Martin's car just remains loose. They have not been able to adjust it back to tighten it up. He just said it's loose in, loose off.
Let's get an update on track conditions. Jeff Hammond.
Mike, I'm relocated up here in one of the grandstand areas overlooking this racetrack. Great view, but what you can see from up here is you can see the lower groove getting the rubber laid down because of all the rain earlier today. But that upper groove that Darrell was talking about is real slow to come in. A couple of guys have tried it, most notably. I noticed Brad Keselowski did too, tried to get in a little while ago. He all but Brad got completely sideways. Several cars, including his brother Kurt Busch, they keep sneaking up there. It's coming in slowly but surely. This racetrack will change at least 2 more times before the end of the race, guys.
Jeff, would you pay for that seat?
Absolutely. It is incredible. You can see all the way around the racetrack. It is one of the best seats in the house. As a matter of fact, Mike, I mean, even higher than the spotters are that are kind of like keeping these guys out of danger. So it's a great location for a race fan.
Pretty great view. As Carl Edwards rolls by through turns 1 and into 2. Of all the drivers in the top 7 positions right now, Edwards is the only one who's not been to victory lane here in a Sprint Cup car.
If I was Carl Edwards and I looked at my rearview mirror and I said, that 11 car, that's Denny Hamlin, and that's the guy that kind of lurked in second place last week.
See you, Jeff.
NASCAR on Fox is sponsored by Chevrolet and their award-winning cars, trucks, and crossovers. And by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Glad you're watching NASCAR on Fox Prime Time from Richmond, Virginia, and time for an AT&T race break. Carl Edwards' 5th straight Richmond race he has led in, ahead of Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, with Michael Waltrip from the Hollywood Hotel keeping an eye on things. And there's your leader, 99. But let's talk about a couple of guys who have championships in hand, and that's Jimmy Johnson and Tony Stewart working their way out.
Yeah, they both qualified outside the top 20, Chris, and have raced into contending for the top 5. These guys are fast tonight. We talked about driving a loose car because the track would be slick. Jimmy Johnson, no one's better at it than that. Tony Stewart says, maybe I am better than he has at it, and I'm going my way too.
And Jimmy Johnson saying, like a home run hitter stuck on a milestone, the pressure, he said, we're not thinking about Hendrick Motorsports and owner Rick Hendrick and win number 200, but when we get there, that's when we'll celebrate.
Yeah, it looks like Casey Kane has a good car for Mr. Hendrick as well. Junior is struggling a bit, and we saw Jeff Gordon getting a crash early, so he's down to 2 bullets, but it's 2 pretty strong ones.
All right, Denny Hamlin, the Virginia native, your pick. We know he's owned this place with Kyle Busch.
Looks like he just needs an adjustment. The car's not bad, but it hasn't had the speed that we've seen from Jimmy, Tony, and some of the guys like Carl Edwards and running up front, but he's fast for sure.
Watching Clint Boyer move into the top 10 ahead of Mark Martin, but we also have to talk, you mentioned Dale Earnhardt Jr. Martin Truex Jr. came in second in points, working his way in the top 10. Had the heartbreak loss in Kansas when he led the most laps last week.
Yeah, and that car, too, like some of the others, really slipping and sliding early in the race. So if they can make adjustments, I'm really looking forward to the second half, Chris, because these crew chiefs are going to have to make calls on pit road in order to get their cars tightened up so they can get the gas down to the ground. You got a lot of speed here at Richmond, but if you can't get the pedal all the way down in a hurry, you can't make any ground.
So far, the night has belonged to Carl Edwards, your leader, dominating, having his best race of the year. We'll see how the drivers are doing in the AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge. Text FAST to 34763 or go to AT&TFastestDriver.com for a chance to win 4 Gs. AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge, brought to you by the nation's largest 4G network. Let's head back upstairs to Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Thanks, Chris. You just saw Kevin Harvick drive past Denny Hamlin to take over 3rd place with the number 29. Now Kyle Busch went past Hamlin earlier into 2nd, and he's beginning to gain some ground on Carl Edwards. You see Edwards about to get into more race traffic. Kyle has cut Carl's lead from 2 seconds down to 1.5.
Yeah, as we said a little bit ago, these tires are really falling off big time, and it really shows who's got the best setups for the long run. That's what guys worked on in practice, and it's really paying off.
There is Kevin Harvick, currently 3rd, Dick.
Right after that pit stop, Harvick told the crew that the adjustments that they had made in the car to tighten it up hadn't worked. They had made it too tight. He's not said anything about the chassis, but he sure is showing on the racetrack that that number 29 that Harvick is driving is much better than it was then.
And Mike, these crew chiefs have predetermined setups, predetermined things that they're going to do to the car if the car is doing X. If the driver complains about being loose, it's almost like a quarterback. You know, when he peels back that thing on his arm to see what play he wants to run based on the defense, that's kind of how the crew chiefs do these cars. If the driver complains, they got a problem with the car, they got a way to fix it.
5th place battle, Dale Earnhardt Jr. with Jimmy Johnson in tow. Moving underneath Denny Hamlin, whose race has gone wrong.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin at 11 is dropping like a rock. And I think a couple of things are happening here. You heard Jeff Hammond talking about this racetrack is getting a different look to it. I think we're starting to really get the rubber down on the racetrack. That's making a difference. Plus, they're just not getting many opportunities with only those 2 cautions to adjust their race car.
A.J. Allmendinger in 8th on the right of your screen. Martin Truex Jr. has been moving in on Allmendinger, Steve.
He had been in the top 5, Mike, but on the last pit stop, he lost a bunch of spots, and he took the blame. He told the crew chief, Todd Gordon, I pushed the clutch in, and it would not take off. It just died. Maybe I didn't push the clutch in enough.
Well, that's one thing. As tough as track position is to come by here, you just cannot have mistakes on pit road, whether it be by the driver or the crew.
I'm just saying that remember, that young man's had a couple of knee surgeries, and, you know, that clutch, you let that leg sit there a while, it maybe didn't get the clutch in far enough.
Looking up at Allmendinger, the yellow car, and Truex in blue from Clint Boyer in 10th place. Dick?
Well, Clint Boyer started in the 23rd spot. He has moved all the way up to 10th, Mike. But listening to him on the radio, you might think he's got a terrible car. He has complained all night long about the car simply not having enough rear grip. But the crew periodically will tell him, Clint, you got the fastest car on the racetrack. And he has had in many laps.
Boyer bitterly disappointed last week. His home track, his home race, and he was out of it early.
That might be one of the most annoying things that a crew chief can say to you. You've got the fastest car. Well, if I do, how come I'm not catching the leader then?
Kyle Busch continues to eat into Carl Edwards' lead. 1.4 seconds from the 99 back to the 18. 160 laps complete in Richmond.
You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
Next week in Talladega, Alabama, Saturday night, Rodney Atkins infield concert. And we'll kick off Sunday with a special hour-long pre-race show. Great seats still available. Call the number on your screen or go to their website for more details. Talladega, fastest speedway on earth. NASCAR on Fox next Sunday.
Most fun infield on earth, too. That concert and go over on the boulevard. Pretty exciting.
Carl Edwards has led the most laps of this race so far, and yet our point leader, Greg Biffle, The Roush Couture that has had the stellar season so far has gone nowhere.
You know, Greg Biffle told us a couple of weeks ago, he said, when you look at the first 7 or 8 races of this year, we've not made any mistakes. We've really not had a bad run. It's almost like he was anticipating somewhere they were going to have a bad run, and right now, unless they can make some huge adjustments, that last caution saved him dearly. He was about to go a lap down to his teammate, Carl Edwards.
Yeah, he's 24th right now, Larry, but until he goes a lap down, he seems all that team's been pulling some pretty big miracles out of the hat.
Well, the other Roush Fenway Ford, Matt Kenseth in the 17, has moved up from 24th to 15th right now. Matt Yoakum.
And talking about Carl Edwards in the 99, basically Jason Hidletsky had told him that the 14 of Stewart is the car that's coming. The only place he's better is exactly, Michael, you documented earlier. He is so smooth through the center of the corner.
Yeah, man, he is. That car just sails into the corner without any brake, and then Tony just gets back in it so much quicker than everybody else. Watch him, man. He closed up 5 car lengths on Kyle Busch there, just rolling the corner. Watch this going into 1. He gets in, and right about there, he really picks up a lot of speed. And the car is smooth as silk. I mean, she's just on a rail right now.
Second and third running about 1.7 seconds behind Carl Edwards, the race leader.
Tony Stewart in that 14 car, he just keeps working over Kyle Busch. That 18 just couldn't quite get the run on the bottom side that time off turn 2.
Now, see, little things like that right there irritate a guy like Smokey. He said, look, dude, I caught you, and I caught you in a big way. Cut me some slack here.
I'd say he'll win this battle right there going off into turn 1.
Message received.
Now we're still 35 or more laps from pit stops. If you're out there like, say, a Greg Biffle or a Jeff Burton, a Mark Martin, a Brad Keselowski, and your car is not running the way you want it to, that seems like a long time to hang on.
But you can't give up. I mean, you got to work hard. You got to work harder right now to try to stay on that lead lap. Get the caution, hopefully, get in the pits, get yourself back in the race. If you get the attitude as well, we're done, can't do anything, you're never going to win a championship or a race.
Got a battle right here for 9th place between Casey Kane in the 5, A.J. Allmendinger in the 22.
Yeah, Allmendinger was the one, I guess, that had the clutch problem a little bit ago. And I mentioned Casey Kane had knee surgery. I thought they were talking about Kane that had trouble in the pits. So Allmendinger has not had any knee surgery.
And Mike, those drivers you were talking about that are way off right now, you'd love the short pit. In other words, come to pit road earlier than you need to for fuel to get those fresh tires. But that's such a gamble at a 3/4-mile racetrack. If that caution comes out, they're going to burn you big time.
Yeah, I just don't think it's worth the gamble on the short track, Larry. It really makes me nervous.
No, because you cannot pit here without losing at least 1 lap to the field under green.
Big gamble.
One driver who's having no trouble is Clint Bowyer. He is at 8th place, and he's right on the back bumper of Denny Hamlin for 7th.
Remember, Clint started back in the 23rd position.
Matt?
Mike, when they came into Richmond, Darian Grubb and Denny Hamlin had a game plan. They tried several different setups. They just didn't have the magic as Denny's setup from last year where he finished 2nd. They went back to that. Right now, though, like so many others reporting, the track has changed. Losing grip. He's starting to fade, especially at exit. No grip. You can see him going in. It's a little too free also.
Yeah, several guys right now it's a typical Richmond complaint. Tight in the middle, loose off.
But how much of a guessing game is this, Larry? Because you practice in the heat of the day. You practice here at 2 in the afternoon. You're going to race here on the coldest it's been all week under the lights.
I think it's where experience prevails, whether it be the driver or be it the crew chief sitting on top of that pit box. Your experience of racing here under them same conditions just truly pays off.
Just talked about it in the beginning. Trends and data. We got a battle here for 4th place. Trends and data. Those crew chiefs, like I said earlier, they know exactly what they got setups for every condition. and they'll have a right change when they get the chance to work on the car.
Kevin Harvick trying to hold off Jimmy Johnson. This is for 4th place. Casey Mears, the 13, is a lap down. And we'll mention David Stremme has gone to the garage area, joining Josh Wise and Michael McDowell. Cole Witt out of the race, so is Joe Nemechek, Mike Bliss, and Scott Speed. 36 cars running. Only Mears and Logano are 1 lap down, and now Marcus Ambrose also 1 down. Kurt Busch, Quapple, Blaney, and Jeff Gordon 2 laps down.
But Mike, we're seeing the same thing on the 11 car we saw in the 55 Mark Martin earlier. When the tires went away, when the car got a little bit loose, he just started falling back through the field. That's a battle for 9th place right there.
Meanwhile, Carl Edwards has just put his teammate and the Sprint Cup point leader, Greg Biffle, 1 lap down. 185 laps complete. We're closing in on halfway at Richmond.
NASCAR on Fox is sponsored by Toyota Care. NASCAR prime time in Richmond. Rain earlier, but clear and cool tonight. Time for an AT&T mid-race report. And Carl Edwards, 150-plus laps, has dominated this race, but the driver who's led the most laps has failed to win the last 4. And here in Richmond, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch historically have dominated this race, but neither one of them have led the race so far tonight at the halfway mark. Let's check in and see who Darrell Waltrip is keeping an eye on.
Well, Chris, I picked Jeff Gordon, but he's 2 laps down. He got in trouble earlier. But his teammate, Jimmy Johnson, started out back, running in the top 5. I look for Jimmy Johnson to take the thing to victory circle.
Darrell, I'm going to jump ship as well. I talked about Denny Hamlin needing that adjustment. It's going to have to be a big adjustment. He's fading. I'm going to go with Tony Stewart. He's rallied, he's rebounded, and he's heading to the front.
Well, Michael, all of these drivers are chasing Carl Edwards. His car is on a rail. I think if you want to catch Carl Edwards with an ever-changing track, Krista, better be aggressive with these next changes on the pit stop.
Well, Larry Mack, Michael picks Tony Stewart. His crew has given him an incredible drive off the corners. He's like a sprinter digging into the blocks, and right now he's driving away from the rest of the field. Mike?
What makes Carl Edwards run so impressive? A Ford has not won at Richmond in 7 years. And in 48 short track starts, Carl has never led the most laps until tonight, Chris.
And Mike, of the top 8 drivers currently, the only one who's won this year is Tony Stewart, a 2-time winner, the defending champ. And a couple of questions: who looks good on the long run as the tires wear, and who hopes there isn't a long run to end this race? Those answers may determine who ends up winning this race. That is your AT&T mid-race report. Back to Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Thanks, Chris. 2 drivers have already made green flag stops to start this cycle. Regan Smith came in at lap 189. Marcus Ambrose came in at 196. And now Greg Biffle is on pit road along with A.J. Allmendinger. Krista?
Mike, Greg Biffle said his car is a little loose, making a wedge adjustment. He's actually been concerned about burning up the rear tire.
Biffle away, and for the lead, Tony Stewart passes Edwards.
What a drive, man. What a drive.
And Tony Stewart started in the 22nd position. He's taken the lead here at the halfway point with the aid of only 2 cautions.
Steve.
A.J. Allmendinger in a little bit early. Mike said he thought he had a tire going down. He's also saying he's really tight in the center. Matt Yoakum.
And Brad Keselowski, who won at Bristol, makes his way to his pit box. The biggest issue he had, you saw him, just absolutely no grip.
And here they come. Harvick is in, Kane is in, and Kurt Busch. Dick.
And Kevin Harvick on pit road. They're going to take out the adjustments that they had put in it last time. This car has been ever so close all night long. A potential winner in the 29.
Burton and McMurray in. And now Montoya coming to the pit lane along with Bobby Labonte. This is going to be a pretty wide pit window. This started pretty early. Some of the drivers still making good speed, staying out. Paul Menard is now in. So is Eric Almirola.
Yeah, right now, I mean, that 14 car's in the catbird seat. He's pulling away from Carl Edwards. Carl running second. Tony can sit out there and wait and see what everybody else is going to do before he comes to pit road.
Steve?
Well, it's like DW said moments ago, similar characteristics for Juan Pablo. Loose in, tight to center, loose off. They're going to fix him up with an air pressure adjustment.
Bowyer, Hamlin, and Newman come to pit lane along with Truex. Dick?
And Clint Bowyer's car is much better than it had been earlier in the race. He had worked up to 7th, Matt.
Since the competition caution, Denny Hamlin has absolutely no grip. This last run, he couldn't even hardly get back in the gas to full throttle. Big changes, Steve.
Martin Truex Jr. in the 56 says it's terrible right now. The center and the exit goes awful together. Dick.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. on pit road now. Has had a decent car all night, but not a great car. Needs more grip. Steve.
Kyle Busch had a hard time getting into his pit box, a car in front of him. He says, I have no rear grip. The center goes away on me first, no rear grip.
Jimmy Johnson heads out, Matt Kenseth and Tony Stewart in along with Carl Edwards. Krista.
As we said, the adjustments that have been working for Tony Stewart have been helping him with that drive off. Right now the crew working on the left side, no wrenches in the back of the car. He is very happy with the balance.
Carl Edwards is in. He said the last run right near the end, he used up the tires. They're making a significant wedge adjustment to try to help the car earlier in the run, and he's away.
All the lead lap cars have now been in as Edwards and Stewart head out.
Yeah, Mike, with what we were seeing on the stopwatch, when one of those lead drivers came in, the others couldn't be far behind him. You would be giving up so much.
And Kevin Harvick is posted as the race leader after this round of stops. Look at this gaggle. Earnhardt, Menard, Burton. Boy, they've been fighting hard.
But it's Dale Jr. He can't get going on this set of tires. Don't know if the air is so low it's really holding him up, but he's got these guys all backed up.
And he was the real loser on pit stops. He got blocked in by Stephen Light. They had to back him up.
He can't clear Jeff Burton, and Jeff Burton can't get inside him to make the pass.
But, Mike, the reason Kevin Harvick is leading this race right now, he pitted about 5 laps earlier than Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards. Here's what happened to Dale Earnhardt Jr. You see Stephen Light in the 33 car with his back end hanging out. Dale Jr. could not get out. They had to back him up.
Boy, it looked like there was a lot of room just from that camera angle, but Dale just had a terrible time right there.
And Kyle Busch locked him up coming in.
Back him up a little bit.
Now, that right rear tire can hang out there outside the pit box, but just the right rear tire. Steve?
When Kyle Busch exited the pit, Mike, his crew chief Dave Rogers apologized and said, hey, we thought the 34, driven by David Reagan, was coming a lap later. We're going to talk to them about that. So that was the problem. He could not get around the 34 of David Reagan.
And that's so important under these green flag pit stops. Even though you don't have a lot of drivers on there at one time, it's important to talk to your neighbor to see when they're going to come in.
They just used to just make your blood boil when they bring you down to pit road with somebody in your way.
The closer, Kevin Harvick, is out front just past halfway in Richmond.
You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
Welcome back to Richmond. 219 laps in. Carl Edwards in front of Kevin Harvick now, with Tony Stewart looking on in third as they work a little bit of lap traffic. Jimmy Johnson is right there too. 4 cars, 3 battling for second on back as Edwards scoots away just a bit. Now here's what happened to Kevin Harvick. He and Dave Blaney got in a little shouting, shoving match.
And you know, right there, I think Blaney had thoughts of retaliating, but then he locked it up to stay off of Kevin.
Inside, 4 laps down here. Inside, 4 laps down.
Talked about Blaney.
Corner, inside, tight. Clear.
Spotter. There. And that loss of momentum allowed Edwards to pounce.
I think that messed Kevin's car up a little bit. A little bit of left front damage there, and the car looks like it's off just a tad.
So there's Carl Edwards, your leader. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was 6th prior to these pit stops. He dropped back to 14th, and he's since gained 1 spot to 13th. So let's have a look at what's fresh off the wire with Earnhardt's stop.
Looks pretty good shape here. Got some distance between him and his line. The line there in front of his pit box. You see the car in front of him. Not the 33 car is not out of position that much. Maybe a little bit. Just didn't get out quick enough. If you look at the left front tire on Junior's car, they run the air pressure so low, the car is hard to turn. It's hard to get it turned when you're coming out like that.
And the car accelerates straight and then turns.
Yeah, it just rolls that tire. There's only about 10 pounds of air in it.
And Dale Jr. is now 13th. That's what's fresh off the wire. Served to you by KFC. Come in and taste why fresh is better.
And Mike, I noticed when Junior got back on the track, the tires were so low, he couldn't go anywhere for about 2 or 3 laps.
The other strange story of that pit stop sequence was Tony Stewart. Stewart had a 1.3 second lead when he made his pit stop, and when they came out, he was 2.5 behind.
But I know one thing that happened. Kevin Harvick, who took the lead, his pit stop alone was about 2 seconds quicker than Tony Stewart's pit stop. Plus, Kevin pitted 5 laps before Tony Stewart.
Yeah, but Stewart had trouble on left side. He was a little slow on left side. We got a problem on the track.
Debris low in turn number 1 puts us under the 3rd caution of the evening at lap 227.
Well, Kevin Harvick has just told the crew that he thinks the splitter is hitting the racetrack at this point. So they'll fix that when they come in for the pit stop.
And Dick, is probably from low air. I tell you, when they come in and running the air pressure so low that they could be hitting the splitter until the air builds up.
And that's the first time they had to leave pit road and go right back to speed. They didn't have caution laps to get the air pressure built up before restart.
This is a perfect scenario for waiver rounds, though. Everybody's made their pit stop pretty much. A lot of these guys will get back on the lead lap.
But I do think we're going to see all of our front-running drivers come to pit road, because pitting here makes it a one-stop race.
That caution is a break for Greg Biffle. He was the last car on the lead lap, and Landon Castle was the first car 1 lap down. He will get the free pass under this 3rd caution flag of the night.
He's been 83 in free pass. Been running pretty good. I've been watching him. He's got a pretty competitive car tonight, Landon Castle.
He's in 23rd place. Boy, a dearth of caution flags these last few weeks. And we've had 3 tonight. We're just past halfway, lap 228.
Just remember, caution flags breed caution flags.
Especially here with these restarts.
Especially here,
tracks.
Larry. Yes.
Pit road's open, Krista.
Jimmy Johnson wanting his car freed up just a little bit on the last stop. Now they're going to add a half pound of air in the right rear to help the balance of his race car. Meanwhile, Tony Stewart saying he goes through phases. He's tight to start, and after about 30 laps, his car gets really good. Dick?
Kevin Harvick in your lower left says the car is also loose coming off the corner. That's a common complaint here. They'll adjust for that. Matt?
Dick, after much debate, they've gone with 4 tires in the 99. Originally, they were going to go with 2, but Carl expected some long runs here. The car was too free, Steve.
4 tires for Kyle Busch. He's also going to get an air pressure adjustment, Matt. He too saying that once the tire falls off, it falls off quickly.
I tell you what, Jimmy Johnson's crew had an unbelievable stop, and you see, it wasn't because they changed 2 tires. They changed 4 just like everyone else.
Kyle Busch gains 4 spots. Kevin Harvick loses 4 on pit road. Carl Edwards retains the lead.
NASCAR on Fox is sponsored by Dodge. Visit your local Dodge dealer today. And by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T, rethink possible.
Finishing up the 3rd caution flag of the night, Carl Edwards back out front. all the cars in front of him will take the wave around. We'll give you some of those in a bit. Let's go back and revisit pit stops.
Yeah, the drivers are hunting tenths of a second. So are the pit crews. You see Jimmie Johnson in the 48 in the right, Carl Edwards in the 99 on the left. Little bit of trouble. You're going to see how they're behind on the right front versus Jimmie Johnson's crew. Now, we're not talking about a lot of time, but it's going to be enough that almost Jimmie Johnson won this battle off pit road. Just that little bit of trouble that Carl's crew had on the right front. And that pretty much, you show it right there. Look at Jimmie Johnson, 12.5 seconds for his pit stop compared to almost 14 seconds. That's a second and a half, and that was the difference.
Well, let's get more from Jeff Hammond at the University of Farmers.
Well, Mike, we talked about at the very beginning of the broadcast, winning the race off of pit road and how important it was going to be. But to be able to do that, you've got to eliminate mistakes on pit road, like Dale Earnhardt Jr. had, like Kyle Busch had, as well as Kevin Harvick in this last round of pit stop. If you're going to win this race tonight, you've got to eliminate the mistakes and win the race off of pit road.
Thanks, Jeff. When we go back to green, 10 cars will take the wave around. They did not make pit stops under this caution flag, and that will help put Joey Logano, Marcus Ambrose, and Casey Mears back on the lead lap, and Jeff Gordon will get one of his 2 laps back. Next Sunday, NASCAR on Fox heads for the fastest speedway on earth.
I'm going to tell you right quick, this place is dangerous.
And boy, is it fun.
Trouble. You know West Place is known for the big ones. This place is big wrecks, great racing, and unlikely winners.
It's an exciting place to be.
Dicing, slicing.
Oh, trouble, hard in the wall.
It's the best race we have on television.
Always unpredictable. Talladega next Sunday. High speed drama.
Got a week to think about it.
Going back to Daytona, the pack is back.
Jimmie Johnson up to second place. He's had quite a night after beginning this race in 27th. I'd like my portfolio to look like that.
His does.
Carl Edwards, Jimmie Johnson, Tony Stewart, Casey Kane, Kyle Busch, Clint Boyer, Allmendinger and Harvick, Montoya and Hamlin. We now have 26 cars on the lead lap.
It's going to get exciting here, boys. Trust me.
Here's a look at your top runners. Lead lap cars start toward the front, double file. Pace car glides into pit road. And here we go. Green flag. Edwards wasted no time in jumping out and away from Jimmie Johnson. Johnson now is going to have to fend off Tony Stewart, and Stewart goes for second. Here comes Kyle Busch for third.
And we've seen all night long these drivers with low air pressure. I think we're seeing it with Jimmie Johnson right now in the 48. Just can't get going on the restart.
Yeah, it's really hurting him in this on this restart. He's falling back a little bit here. That thing will come alive in about 5 laps.
Allmendinger, the 22, fighting Johnson for fourth. Behind them, Clint Boyer, Casey Kane, Montoya, Harvick, and Hamlin.
Boy, Johnson drove that thing down into turn 3, trying to clear Allmendinger in the 22. A lot of contact back in the pack there. A couple of cars up the hill.
That's another battle I've been watching right here with Montoya in the 42. He's now cracked the top 10. He's in 7th. He just took this position away from Casey Kane.
Carl Edwards, half a second up on Tony Stewart. How about a good old-fashioned NASCAR on Fox Saturday night? Rank it up.
Let's do it.
The front four cars very, very closely matched on the stopwatch. But Carl Edwards far and away at the top of the board in the lap leader category.
I think the question, Mike, is the 14 seems to be really, really good at the end of a long run here. And I think that's where Carl slows down a little bit more than the 14 does as Stewart.
And this pace just keeps getting faster. In fact, Tony Stewart, Clint Boyer, Juan Pablo Montoya just ran their fastest lap of this race just a couple laps ago.
A.J. Allmendinger driving for Roger Penske. He's our leading Dodge Charger in this race. Brad Keselowski on the lead lap, 14 of 26 lead lap cars.
A.J. Allmendinger, he got that second place finish at our last short track up at Martinsville. Had a great run after sitting on the pole at Kansas. Broke a throttle body linkage, but had a great car last week.
Yeah, A.J. actually is a pretty good little short track racer. A guy that's, Steve, what are they saying down in the 22 pit?
Well, DW, he said on that last pit stop, he told the guys, I was plowing the front a little bit on that run, but the rear was hooked up well, so he was happy with the way the track was coming to him versus the front.
Still, though, Jeff Hammond, the top half dozen cars running almost identical lap times as Carl Edwards.
Yes, they are, Mike. And you guys were talking about what you're seeing from up there, that Carl Edwards is getting out front and Tony running him back out. Talked to Bob Osborne as well as Carl Edwards about that. And they have worked really hard to try to close that gap. They've had fast race cars in the past, but they haven't had the longevity. The long run has always hurt them. So that's what they're really concerned about in the latter part of this race. Do they have a car that can go a long run?
Tony Stewart has led 5 laps tonight. He's trying to lead this one. He has the inside line on Edwards, who has the drive off the corner. Edwards continues to lead.
Yeah, Tony Stewart in the 14 to me just looks so strong when he picks that throttle up on the exit of the corner.
And the difference I see, Larry, Tony's doing it easy. And it looks to me like Carl is driving it as hard as he can go, trying to keep Tony at bay. Tony gets by and he just looks like he's doing it real easy. I agree, buddy. Nice work.
Tony Stewart to the front for the second time tonight. Chevy, Ford, Toyota, Stewart, Edwards, Busch.
Racing under the lights, NASCAR Prime Time, the 9th race of the year, the quarter mark of NASCAR season from Richmond, Virginia, and time for an AT&T race break where Tony Stewart is your leader. Now, Carl Edwards, Michael Waltrip, fell to 4th, but he's led the most laps, 202. Remember, Edwards and Stewart brought us that championship chase, the best finish ever last year.
Yeah, but Carl Edwards has never won on this flat track in Richmond, Virginia, Chris. This is a short track that it takes a lot of finesse. You slide your car around too much, your back tires get wore out. Tony Stewart, 3 wins here.
Running second, Kyle Busch, who's trying for his 4th straight Richmond race in the spring, but it's a tipping point for him. He hadn't won this year yet.
Yeah, and we talked about in the pre-races, this was a big test for this young man. And look, he's closing in on Tony Stewart. The more laps that go by, the stronger that car gets. If tonight's a test, sure, he passed it.
Tonight, another guy who's yet to win this season, Jimmie Johnson. This week, Forbes magazine again named him the most influential athlete in America ahead of Tim Tebow, but he just wants to get to victory lane, and they're talking to him on the radio about saving tires.
Yeah, once you slide a tire around, it doesn't forgive you for it. As a race car driver, especially here at Richmond, you buzz a right rear tire, you think to yourself, okay, please, just let that be an isolated incident. Let me keep them hooked up. Jimmy's very cognizant of how important that is, and he's taking care of his stuff.
And what do you make of points leader Greg Biffle, and also right behind him Martin Truex Jr. coming into the race, both of them outside of the top 15?
Yeah, they're running 18th and 20th, so the points are going to tighten up. Biffle has a pretty good lead, 15, 16 points over Truex, and it's tight behind those guys, so look for the points to take a shuffle. Those two are struggling tonight.
Let's check our drivers of the AT&T Fastest Driver Challenge. Be sure to sign up and play. Text 34763 or visit AT&T FastestDriver.com for a chance to win 4Gs, brought to you by the nation's largest 4G network. Rethink possible. But Tony Stewart, starting outside the top 20, took him 201 laps, but he's your leader over Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson. NASCAR on Fox is sponsored by Sprint. Avoid a data dilemma with truly unlimited data. Go to sprint.com/speed. And by Subway. Subway broke the 200-calorie breakfast barrier with egg white morning melt. Subway. Eat fresh.
With 127 laps to go, let's take an inside look at what's happening in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, brought to you by Sprint. Carl Edwards has led the most laps in this race, just over half. And the biggest mover is Jimmy Johnson, currently running third. Check out the NASCAR Sprint Cup mobile app on your Android-powered device on the only national carrier with truly unlimited data. Learn more at sprint.com/speed. Race leader Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards, who dominated, have quite a history. Last season, during the chase for the Sprint Cup, they battled for the title, tied in points. Stewart got the tiebreaker on most wins. The last time Carl Edwards led the most laps in a race, Homestead, last November, the deciding race for the championship, which was won by Stewart, with Carl Edwards just about 10 car lengths behind. Among the drivers that have led green flag laps tonight, how about Kevin Harvick, Dick?
Well, things were going very well until the last pit stop for Kevin Harvick. He came in fourth, but they had trouble with the left rear tire. Went out eighth. Harvick very unhappy with the crew and let him know that on the radio. Meanwhile, he has dropped back several positions. They had adjusted the car so that it had the same stuff underneath it as he had a couple of pit stops earlier when the car was very fast. So just haven't kept up with the racetrack. Slow pit stop. Harvick's 11th.
Thanks, Dick. Mark Martin, our pole sitter, right behind him, 12th. Hasn't been a good night for Richard Childress Racing. One of their other cars, Paul Menard, had a problem on pit road earlier. We found out that was caused by a tire that had been left in the pit by Jimmy Johnson's team. That's how Eric Pringle lost control of the tire that rolled out into pit lane, and some of that jostling and shoving around in the pits was between those two teams side by side.
And I'm glad you gave that information, because as I watched that replay of that whole incident, it almost looked like that there was something going on between Jimmy Johnson's team and Paul Menard's team, and I think that's when the NASCAR official truly stepped in.
Just remember, I think it was last week when Kevin Harvick got on the radio and said, okay, boys, I've kept my mouth shut up to this point. They had a problem in the pits last week, and he kind of let them know about it. Looks like he might have to let them know about it again tonight.
But I think when Slugger Labby said, if that ever happens again, you will not work for Richard Childress Racing, I think that's what he was talking about, his crew member going over to the 48 team.
Larry, who's responsible for the crew?
The crew chief.
Good point.
That's why they say crew chief.
That's right.
That's why they say crew chief to the Sprint Cup hauler after the race. Jeff Hammond's got a front row seat down there in turn number 3. Watching everybody's entry into the corner.
Well, those first 3 cars that are leading this race right now, Stewart, Busch, and Johnson, you could throw a blanket over them. Their times are 19, 20, and 21.
But Matt Carl Edwards, who's led half of this race, has fallen 3 seconds off the lead. What's up?
There we go. Mike, basically what happened was the car started out on this run much tighter, and he didn't really want to try to push it, so he dropped back, faded in, settled in. Now the free has come back. Now they're already planning what adjustments they want to make on that final run to the finish. But Carl assures Bob Osborne, we are in good shape. Do not worry.
Well, you know, when the car is free, what that means is you can't turn it. You can't put a lot of wheel into it. You kind of got to let the car go where you want it to. You drive it more with the throttle than you do with the steering wheel. That's not good. That slows you down.
Well, if they're in good shape, the stopwatch doesn't know it, because they're 2/10 slower than Kyle Busch, who's trying to take the lead from Tony Stewart.
And not far behind those two, you see that blue car, Jimmy Johnson in the 48. He wants some action up there.
Let's see, how many races has Kyle Busch won here in the spring?
That would be 3.
In a row.
The top 3 are tied with 3 wins each here. No driver in tonight's race has won 4.
One thing I noticed when we were talking about Carl Edwards, I noticed the left rear, the tire, there was a lot of black rubber on the left rear quarter panel. I don't know if he got some damage there or if the tire is rubbing, but he had a lot of rubber up on the left rear quarter panel.
Off turn 4 and for the lead again, Kyle Busch. Tony Stewart now trying to hold off Jimmie Johnson. But Stewart is just about 2/10 slower than the 2 cars that just passed him.
Well, that was a courtesy move right there. Tony said, look, he got by me. You go up there, Jimmy, and see if you can get him.
Kyle Busch becomes the 6th different leader tonight. He went to victory lane as an owner last night. Will he go as a driver this evening?
You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
Kyle Busch leading, 105 laps to go in the Capital City 400 presented by Virginia is for Lovers. He has a 7/10 of a second lead on Jimmie Johnson, Tony Stewart, and Carl Edwards. We've been noticing on Edwards' car the rear quarter panel, especially on the left side, filling up with rubber. Here's our Fox Exmo camera, and you can see all of that black. Now, we showed you Jeff Hammond, who is closest to the racetrack of all our viewpoints. Jeff, is that a tire rub or something else?
No, Mike, all it is the action of the tires themselves wearing out, and because Carl's car this time is painted white, it's really a lot more prominent. Darrell, I think you probably something like say it's an optical conclusion. That's all it is. All the white cars are really showing this tire wear. These tires are really wearing a lot around the racetrack tonight.
Dick Bergeron, why is Kevin Harvick on pit road?
He is on pit road because that car was absolutely sideways coming off the corner. Inexplicable because they have not made any major adjustments to it, but they are now in the fuel window. They could make it to the end by pitting now. Harvick desperate to get an adjustment in the car.
Well, based on what I learned this morning, they're going to have to really stretch it to get to the end with 102 laps to go.
Harvick will lose a lap to Kyle Busch.
Larry, I think they probably, you're right, they're going to have to stretch it, but I think they feel like they stayed out and got in that window just enough to come on pit road.
Guys, I'm hearing a lot of chatter on the radio about the track going through some serious changes. Think about this race. Carl Edwards dominant early. He's beginning to struggle a little bit now. Tony Stewart in the middle stages looked like he had the car. His has gone away a little bit. Kyle Busch has emerged to the front. A lot of people thinking that the track is freeing up, Darrell. We've heard it in the past. Usually when it gets later and cooler, it tightens up. I think it's going the other way with these guys.
Well, what the deal is these tires, the way these tires are built these days, they lay down a patch of rubber. And that rubber builds up, and the cars do go through incredible changes during the race. I'm surprised these guys haven't tried to run a little higher, but really and truly they can't because there's not enough grip up there. So they're kind of in a box right now.
David Reagan gets a drive-through penalty, too fast entering pit road and making his stop. Tony Stewart now sitting in 3rd place, 0.6 of a second behind the leader.
Feel like I got a right rear leaking or something. I've got real tight in the center and really loose off. It's moving around a little bit, but I'm not going to rule out that it's something else. It's not getting any worse here. We'll just take care of it for a minute and see if I just got it hot or something.
Well, that could be the case, Krista. His last lap was the fastest of anybody in the top 5.
Yeah, if he had a problem, Jimmie Johnson got a bigger one because he just drove by Jimmie Johnson, and Jimmie just got the 51 car going by him. Now Johnson looks like something's wrong with his car.
Now he's fallen off by half a second. Pit stops coming with just 100 laps to go in Richmond. Stewart leads. Kyle Busch is in. Steve.
Mikey says the car is pretty decent right now, just a little bit free in and a little bit free off. They talked about a wedge adjustment, but 4 tires for Kyle. Matt.
And Denny Hamlin, who finished second here a year ago, just cannot get a handle on this race car. Burst into his pit box. One more shot here to make an adjustment. He cannot get the power down at all, Dick. 2-3.
And
got Dale Earnhardt Jr. on pit road now. They haven't quite hit it all night. Thought they had the potential to have a winning car. They've been close. Really costed to be trapped in the pits last time around. Easy out this time.
Kenseth out, Keselowski coming in, and now Tony Stewart, the race leader, comes in.
And I think Carl may have missed pit road.
And one car hits the wall in 4. That's Jeff Burton. Burton's going to limp around and try to make it to pit road. We stay green.
A lot of action trying to get on pit road. Carl missed pit road right there.
And Jeff Burton in 31, he just had pitted about a lap and a half ago.
Low air, just won't turn.
Caution is out.
Stewart's leaving pit road. I think he's going to be okay.
And Jimmy Johnson is on pit road because I think he's the leader. He should be able to beat the pace car, Krista.
That's right. He came in and they're having a bad stop right now, though. They have not been on their game tonight on pit stops. Right now they're working on the left side of the machine. But yes, Jimmy Johnson could benefit from this if they were able to do a good enough stop.
Out he comes as the field cycles around.
And all he had to do is beat whoever the leader was to the start-finish line that actually goes all the way across pit road. And I think he indeed did that.
Because that would have been Carl Edwards, who's just now coming off turn number 4.
That was a good heads up by Jimmy Johnson and his crew to go ahead and make that stop.
There's Carl at the line as Jeff Burton finally makes it around to pit road. Burton bangs the wall in turn 4, and we're under the 4th caution tonight.
There was more things going on.
Wow.
31 hits the wall. I think Carl missed pit road. That's why he wasn't on pit road when the caution came out. Several things happened all at once.
I did not see Burton hit the wall, but I saw a big jam up of cars trying to get onto pit road as he came into 3 and 4 with a full head of steam.
Stewart had to go between 3 cars to get on pit road.
Now every driver had pitted except for Carl Edwards.
And there's Burton already up and into the wall. Down in turns 3 and 4.
Stewart's passing the pace car. There he goes.
Jimmy Johnson, all that strategy has gone for naught because the right rear tire rolled out of the control of the pit crew on that stop. He will go to the rear for the restart.
It's what happened right here is they know the caution's out, and so they're panicking. They're trying to get in a hurry here, and the tire guy forgets which way to go.
See, you can't roll that tire. You have to. It has to stay in contact with a crew member back to the wall. That's a violation.
Here's another look. You'll see he'll look left, look right.
His guy took off.
All right, see right here, that tire, it cannot be rolled back. It has to be carried back. A crew member has to be in contact with it.
To halfway, I think it is, halfway to the back of the car.
That crewman couldn't carry the tire and the jack at the same time. Carl Edwards is in as pit road is open. And Kyle Busch, who made his pit stop under green, will get the free pass. Matt?
And the dominating car tonight, the 99 of Edwards, hasn't won since last year, March. Significant wedge adjustment. That's for the later part of the run. They made an air pressure change to help the car on the get-go. Packing it full of fuel. If it goes green, Bob Osborne told Carl, this will be a full run. You've got what you got.
Now let's explain how Kyle Busch got a lap down. He and all these other drivers that had made green flag pit stops, the caution came out before a couple of the leaders had pitted. So they had a lap up on the cars that had made pit stops, and that's why right now we have 4 lead lap cars. Now some more will take the wave around. We'll probably have more when we restart.
Yeah, we've got pretty much about 11 drivers that are showing a lap down right now, but they will take the wave around.
All right, so there's Jimmy Johnson's team. Now they're right next to the Menards crew, who is pointing, calling the official over. The official had already seen the tire rolled away and tells the official, he goes, I know, they rolled the tire and there's a penalty. Remember what happened earlier between those two?
Yeah, it was early in a pit stop at Steve.
All right, Larry Mack, here's what I can tell you about the scoring situation. When Kyle Busch left pit road, Dave Rogers, the crew chief, said, "We are position 4. We are the lucky dog. So come back around and get 4 new tires."
Well, and I think the other thing that this does, it lets them fill that car with Sunoco race fuel, and with 85 to go, we know we always have a potential for green-white checkers at the end of this thing that let them put more fuel in there.
My head's
to go, and I can't tell you all the cars that take the wave around because there are so many of them. But let me tell you who is in great shape right now. Kyle Busch stopped at lap 315. Carl Edwards at 314. Tony Stewart at 310. And they, along with Jimmy Johnson, have the freshest tires. You'll see it on the scoring crawl. 10 cars take the wave around to get themselves back up and on the lead lap.
10. It looks like the whole field to me.
Well, I think that's 10 drivers that are on the lead lap. There's several that are 1 or more laps down that took it as well.
So there are 2 rules that come into play here. One is at the instant of caution, the first car 1 lap down gets the free pass. That was Kyle Busch. The other is that any drivers who stay out and move up to the pace car that are ahead of the leader that have not pitted under this caution can take the wave around and get back the lap that they have lost that way. So with 83 laps to go, still waiting for our scoring to cycle through and let us know how many lead lap cars we're going to have, and it looks like 15. 15 cars will be on the lead lap all the way back to Paul Menard when we get this restart.
And the bad news for Jimmy Johnson is he can't start behind the lead lap cars. He got to go all the way to the back behind everybody
because of the penalty, even though he is on the lead lap.
And even though he has a fast race car with about 82 laps to go, he's going to have to put his work gloves, work shoes, work everything on.
He's going to have to hope that they have some cautions.
So the lead lap car, Johnson restarts 36th in line, 15th in the scoring rundown, and we're getting ready to go. Tony Stewart doesn't go.
That's the second time I've seen that happen tonight. The car just kind of lurches sideways, lunges sideways when he tries to go.
And look who's up there in contention, Greg Biffle. What a move Biffle just put on. Now he's 1 lap down in the 16.
Because you were the leader.
3rd in line. How about this black flag, Carl Edwards?
Black flag right here.
NASCAR telling Bob Osborne, Carl jumped the restart.
Check on that, man. We were the leader.
Kind of.
The 14 asked Bob, and then the official told both of us, yes, we were the leader.
Now what they're saying, what Bob, you saw the motion, he's saying Tony spun his tires. But, Larry?
But there's a restart box that's on the inside. You're going to see it when you right here on the apron. Well, we're not to the restart box yet because it's on up there. You're going to see it right there. See, that's the restart box, and Carl Edwards went before that restart box.
Woo. Boy, that was close, too.
There is a line painted on the inside and outside wall, and the drivers are told, do not accelerate before that line. And they are saying that Edwards took off before the restart zone within which he must restart the race.
Yeah,
that's why the black flag.
It's a box that's maybe, looks to me, maybe about 20 to 30 yards that you have the option of going in that box. And he went just a little bit before.
He was nose touching the box. I'll tell you, that was close. I think what made it look bad was Tony didn't go, and it made it look really bad for Carl.
Bob Osborne has argued his case with the NASCAR officials to no avail.
I don't blame Bob for being upset. That was very borderline.
And the leader is Tony Stewart. Greg Biffle on the tail end of the lead lap after getting a great jump on that restart.
So Jimmy Johnson, he had to go the back. Carl has to go the back.
Jimmy Johnson has fought his way back up to 12th in that 48 car, but he's 6.5 seconds behind leader Tony Stewart. Carl Edwards is 17 seconds still on the lead lap.
So Stewart the leader, Kyle Busch trying to close in, and here's the race for fourth. Allmendinger in the 22, who's had a great night, and Casey Kane.
Kane's had a good night, really good night.
Carl Edwards served the drive-through penalty without losing a lap. The caution flag would put him right back in this. Here's another look, and there is the line. Right there, you see it on the outside.
Here's the box down here. Yeah. There's the box right there. And you're going to see he's going to go, but I'm like you, Daryl. I think Tony not going magnified.
It made it look bad because Smoke's not. I mean, look at Tony. He's not moving. So what? I mean, that was pretty borderline for me.
Now, if Carl does not go beyond that box, then it's free game.
Yeah, the flagman starts the race, and it's game on. You're right. So now Edwards, after leading 202 of the 400 lap distance, finds himself in 15th, 17 seconds behind race leader Tony Stewart. 73 laps to go in Richmond. Tony Stewart leads Kyle Busch by 0.7 of a second. Carl Edwards has served a penalty that may have taken him completely out of contention to win a race in which he dominated the first half. Dale Earnhardt Jr. third, Casey Kane, Clint Boyer on the move in fifth.
And Jimmy Johnson is Hamlin. Jimmy Johnson's up to 11th after starting in the back. Carl is 15th after serving that penalty. They've got fast cars, but they don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, they're making up positions. They're just not making up ground on Tony Stewart.
Tell you somebody it is making up ground on Tony Stewart. Little yellow car.
Would that be Kyle Busch, not 18?
That'd be the number 18 car.
The gap is about a second. And it's stabilized for the moment. Clint Boyer had been on the move, moving up to fifth. Casey Kane and Earnhardt. This lap, Kyle Busch is quickest.
Yeah, Kyle is just inching in on the back of Tony. About a 10th a lap.
Kyle has won the last 3 spring races at Richmond. Now, Tony's crew chief, Steve Addington, went to victory lane with Kyle here a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but you know what? I think last night was such a breakthrough moment for Kyle Busch. He started his nationwide team. He has a truck team. They're all under his umbrella. I think he had a lot on him, and he can't drive in any of those. He hadn't been able to drive some of the early races in nationwide, no truck racing. And I think it's really affected him a little bit. But I think last night was breakthrough. I think it really gave him an opportunity to say, hey, I can do this.
Yeah, who would ever believe that we would be talking about Kyle Busch in the 18 there being on a 22-race winless streak? This is about the deepest he's went in a season since 2006 without going to victory lane.
Larry, I started my own team. I got in way over my head. I couldn't afford it, and it affected the way I had to race.
Kyle Busch and that Toyota just keep chipping away at Tony Stewart's lead. It's down to 3/4 of a second with 60 laps to go.
And my point is, it's not about what I had to do, it's what he's had to do.
Steve?
Well, Mike, you said chipping away at it. His crew chief, Dave Rogers, has told him, do it inch by inch. Take your time. Take care of that car, inch by inch.
Well, last week, remember what Martin Truex said. I got to driving so hard, my right rear tire started screaming at me. Come on, man, you're killing me. And that's what you don't want to have happen. We've seen it happen to these leaders all night. Tires go off, you're done.
Let's go back to the restart and show you our 5-hour energy big move of the race. Whether or not Carl Edwards thought he, not Tony Stewart, was the leader, you see that Carl moves out before the start of the restart area, which runs from here to here. That's where the leader must start the race. Now, if that happens, Carl could give the lead back and be legal, but he'd have to back up 5 places to give that position back.
But what makes it look so bad is Tony spun his tires, couldn't go, and that's what Bob Osborne is saying. Man, he spun his tires. Give me a break.
But they were not to the restart box, regardless. That's the deal. You know, whether it was a few inches, a few feet, I think it's been well documented, he was not to that restart box area.
Good point. 56 to go. Kyle Busch knocks it down to half a second. And here's some audio from the Carl Edwards team after that happened.
I'm asking a question here. Did we get the black flag because we beat the 14, or did we get the black flag because we went early? They say both. Both? How can it be both? Because they told Jason that we were leaders. What's going on? It's not cool to get a race taken from you like that.
Boy, it's a hard break for Edwards, but the rules about that restart area are pretty clear, and it is well marked where the drivers can see it on both the inside and outside walls.
It was a game changer.
Yeah.
Definitely a game changer.
You know, guys, I think Tony Stewart probably said, well, you can't do that, Carl. And so he didn't go, making it look worse. But I don't think Carl had the right to go when he went. And Tony didn't like that. So he's hesitated a little bit and made it obvious that Carl had jumped the restart.
Thanks, Michael. Let's have a look at why Carl thought he was the leader. Here's the scoring pylon at the time, and it has the 99 in first place and the 14 of Stewart in second place based on the electronic scoring. That's just the way they crossed the line the last time.
And you heard Bob say they told Jason you were the leader. So a lot of miscommunication here.
Jason Hedleski, the spotter for Carl Edwards. So Carl needs a caution to get back in play here. 52 to go.
Remember when I told you my head was spinning after that kind of melee right there? I think everybody's was.
Jimmy Johnson has climbed to 9th. He passed pole sitter Mark Martin for 9th spot. But Johnson is 14.5 seconds off the lead. Tony Stewart is not waiting around for Kyle Busch with 50 laps to go. Let's have a look at what's at stake and awaits the winner down there in Gatorade Victory Lane.
45 laps to go here in Richmond, Virginia. There's Tony Stewart, who 13 years ago won his first career Sprint Cup race here at Richmond. Since then, 45 more wins and 3 championships, including last year. As you see Denny Hamlin, and this is a battle for 6th place with A.J. Allmendinger. Moments ago, Kasey Kahne, who hasn't led a lap this year, despite having 2 poles, moved ahead of Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 3 spot. But Kyle Busch behind Tony Stewart, celebrating this week his 27th birthday coming up, racing for his 24th win, and again hoping for his first win of this season. 7 different leaders and 13 lead changes, and back up to Mike Joy with only 4 cautions in the race so far.
Thanks, Chris. Nowhere near a record. We've had just 1 caution flag at Richmond 3 different times. Jimmy Johnson, Montoya fighting for 8th spot as Stewart pulls away from Kyle Busch now. He's opened it up to 1.2 seconds. Now after the restart and things settled down, here's what Tony Stewart and team had to say.
99. They're showing the 99 the leader. I'm not positive on it. They're showing him the leader. No, he came down pit road. We are. Yep, folks. All right, we are coming to the green. All good. They're posting the 99 for jumping the start because you were the leader. Black flag in the 99.
That was several sound bites condensed together, but it gives you a picture of what the 14 team thought. To back that up, Stewart restarted on the inside of the front row, which is where every race leader all night has chosen, was the inside lane. And Krista, Jimmy Johnson's up to 8th. He's coming back, fighting for 7th against Allmendinger. And boy, they get close off turn 2 there.
Yeah, Mike, he is on the move, but you know, the pit woes that they have had tonight really started early, back on their very first pit stop. I watched in their pit as they nearly left the wedge wrench in the back of the car. They didn't. They got it out. Chad Knaus made the statement, one mistake can lead to many. That's what seems it's played out tonight.
Stewart just goes by. He's the leader. He just went by the line here. Johnson is almost over a half lap down to Stewart, our leader. So a caution's the only thing that's going to save him get back in the race.
Yeah, he's picking positions up. He's just not gaining time on Tony Stewart, the leader.
And nobody is. Kyle Busch and Kasey Kahne, who's now 3rd, are about a 10th quicker than the race leader, but no one else seems to be. Denny Hamlin, 6th place, 14 seconds back. Jimmy Johnson about a 10th a lap quicker than Hamlin right now.
A bunch of guys have done a really nice job tonight, Mike. The 5 cars up there in 3rd place. Steve, what they got going on?
Well, DW, the message on Kyle Busch, or from Kyle Busch rather, he's saying, I'm going to try some different things. I know it's late, but I'm really tight in the middle right now. I'm going to try something different.
Well, and right now he's a little over a second, about a second and a quarter behind leader Tony Stewart. And as long as he doesn't have to fight lap cars like he's doing right now, certainly not a bad thing to probably try, Darrell.
Yeah, right there on that lap he lost a 10th and a half, but he is in traffic, so he needs to move around.
Kevin Harvick goes a lap down, and now Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards, who fought for the championship last year, are going to be nose to tail instead of side by side as they were at the restart. Edwards' penalty has now put him in danger of going a lap down.
Can you imagine a little while ago fighting for the lead, and now you're fighting just to stay on the lead lap? That is pretty much demoralizing everything right there.
That's a bitter pill. 8th and 9th, Allmendinger, Montoya, and Mark Martin 10th.
Mark Martin, our pole sitter, he has fought his way back because he was about to fall outside the top 20.
Did you see Allmendinger in?
Whoa!
Yeah. I'll tell you, Allmendinger in Montoya, that just about got ugly.
Let's see, I think it was a year ago Montoya had something similar to this going on, but it was with Ryan Newman here at Richmond.
And Newman ended up wrecked up in turns 3 and 4 after they got together in turns 1 and 2.
And then they had a little powwow when we got to the next race.
Well, that cost Allmendinger 2 spots. One to Montoya, and then he lost a spot to Mark Martin while he regrouped in that yellow Dodge. That brings Matt Kenseth up there and into play for this 10th place battle. And Jimmy Johnson has caught Denny Hamlin for 6th. All this happening 14 seconds off the lead with 30 laps to go. It's a regular 30-lap feature net from here, Darrell, like we might be having at the 60th anniversary opener of Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem tonight.
Yeah, except that they're on worn-out tires, and I don't know how exciting that might get. We need it. We can get them grouped back up here. There's a number of guys that got fast cars, but right now track position is playing a big factor.
Look at Carl Edwards of the 99 fighting to stay on the lead lap, hoping for a caution somewhere else that'll put him back in contention.
Wonder if Carl thinks Tony set him up on that restart.
Well, looks like Tony Stewart's going to put Carl Edwards a lap down, and now what Carl has to do is fight to stay in touch with Tony Stewart to be the first driver a lap down.
28 laps to go. Can Kyle Busch catch Tony Stewart? Stay tuned. .24 laps to go as Tony Stewart laps Eric Almirola. Stewart has opened up a 2.6-second lead on the second place car of Kyle Busch. Casey Kane is 9 back, Earnhardt 10, Bowyer 15. They are the top 5. On that last restart, Tony Stewart was the race leader. Didn't get going. Carl Edwards shot ahead and was ahead of Stewart at the line and went before the restart zone and had a drive-through penalty as a result. He's just gone 1 lap down as we've been green flagged since then. Jimmy Johnson served a penalty during the caution flag period, so he restarted at the tail end of the lead lap, and he has climbed to 6th place ahead of Bowyer, Montoya, Martin, and Kenseth. 13 cars on the lead lap, including Keselowski, Menard, and Allmendinger, with Carl Edwards still the first car 1 lap down and time running out.
I think it's really, we haven't talked a lot about Casey Kane running 3rd. We haven't talked about Dale Jr., who slipped up into the top 5 as well. So some guys have benefited from Carl's problems and from Jimmy Johnson's problem, particularly those 2 guys.
And with the issues that Greg Biffle and Martin Truex Jr. has had tonight here with 20 to go, it's going to be a good points night for Dale Earnhardt Jr. And tomorrow would be Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s 61st birthday.
And Larry, another guy that just keeps digging himself in a deeper hole, Jeff Gordon. I don't know. He's out of the top 20 in points, I think. I would think he came in here, what, about 17th or 18th. Just another bad night.
Gordon cut a tire early, made an unscheduled green flag pit stop, went 2 laps down, got 1 back on a wave around, and is now once again 2 laps in arrears. A.J. Allmendinger, after that battle and scuffle with Montoya, his car has dropped off, and now he's been lapped by Tony Stewart. There goes Edwards past Allmendinger to stay in the free pass position.
And I think that's Carl just hoping and praying that he can stay in that lucky dog position and possibly get a caution and get one more shot. But time is running out with 18 laps to go.
And with the scarcity of caution flags these last 5 races, that's highly unlikely.
Documented a while ago that Kyle Busch, that 18, was going to try to start moving his race car around to find something, but he just keeps losing more and more ground to Tony Stewart.
The way these races have been going, when you have these long greens, it physically and mentally wears you down. And I got to tell you, when you get down to the end of one of these long races, you don't want to race anybody. You don't want anybody to wreck. You just want to get it over with because your tongue's hanging out, man.
What Jimmie Johnson wants right now is that black car right in front of him, Denny Hamlin. Hamlin anchors the top 5. Comes down to cover the spot as Johnson has a look to the inside.
And that, just imagine how fast Jimmie Johnson is. Started dead last on that last restart. 36, I think you said. And there he is, trying to crack the top 5.
Right, he was 36th in line, 15th in the running order, because he had to start at the tail end of the entire field. Here's Tony Stewart coming up off turn 2 on last time by.
Oh my gosh. Now, see that right there? That's what Tony knew. Remember earlier in the late in the run, he started saying, I think something's wrong with the car. I got a tire going down.
Caution's down, debris on the racetrack. Caution's up.
Debris in turn 2 puts us under the caution we thought we might never see. Lap 386. It's the 5th caution tonight.
Carl gets a lucky dog. Jimmie Johnson gets everybody gets tires. This changes everything.
Where have I heard that before?
Now Junior's got a shot.
So we will restart with 13 cars on the lead lap.
And there's no question, you're going to have to come get 4 tires. And so many of these drivers, like Denny Hamlin, they've not had cars that's been good on the long haul, but good on the short haul. And that's all we've got left is a short haul.
And I don't know that Tony's car's been all that great on these short runs. And this is, you talk about pressure. How would you like to be the 48 team? Had trouble in the pits. A number of these guys have, and this is the one you better make it count.
Here comes Stewart. He'll be the first car onto pit road.
Boy, did he play it smart.
Here comes Kyle, and here's Krista.
Steve Addington just asking Tony Stewart, how's your car? He said, pretty good, but their strength has been the long runs. What do they have for this final dash? Dick?
In the upper right, Casey Kane pits out of the 3rd spot. This is the best run Kane has had all year long. Crew has been sharp. Kane has been sharp. Steve.
Dick, Kyle Busch calmly said, undo the changes you made on the last stop. Dave Rogers responded by saying, undo the wedge, undo the track bar adjustment. Kyle Busch said, after that, leave it alone.
And he's first off pit road. He beats Tony Stewart.
Well, 2 things happened there. Tony Stewart, they had trouble on the right side, and I think that pit selection there at the end of pit road for Kyle Busch truly paid off.
Sometimes you get a little choked up down there on these tight stops.
There's the tail of the tape on pit stops. Let's have a look at Stewart's stop here, Larry.
This was going to be a 4-tire stop. He pretty much stopped right on his marks. But you'll see right here, they had a little bit of trouble on the right rear, but they couldn't get that right front tire indexed. They couldn't get it up there on the lug studs. It's tenths of seconds, but that's the difference on pit road right now.
And what I saw Tony do, I mean, he was the leader of the race. He got on pit road with a nice cushion. They had a little cushion on everybody else, but they lost it right there.
I mean, just look at that right there, and that's huge. That is huge with the competition the way it is right now.
It's huge when they're in but 15 laps to go.
And a well-deserved celebration for Kyle Busch's crew as they get their man out first.
M&M's for everyone.
Well, I think they're celebrating for several reasons. They won the battle off pit road, and they know how bad their driver wants to win a race right now.
How would you like to have a hungry Kyle Busch with the lead with 15 to go? That would be a dream come true if you want to win a race here at Richmond.
I guarantee you. Of course, he's going for his 4th consecutive win in the spring here.
It'll be interesting to see if Tony Stewart can go in a hurry. Darrell, he's so successful here. He knows you have to take care of your tires in order to be good on a long run. All that's out the window. We're going to map the gas and see if it'll stick. That'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, but he's had trouble on 3 of the 4 restarts. He's had trouble on the start of the race. He had trouble on the last restart. He better be ready this time.
19 cars take the wave around. They chose not to pit under this caution. Most of those were lap down cars. That'll put Allmendinger back on the lead lap along with Harvick, Newman, Biffle, McMurray, and Labonte.
The beautiful thing about the wave around, look, the leaders don't have to race anybody. It's all clear.
Here we go. Carl Edwards got tires like everybody else. He's back in 13th, but now he's got a fighting chance. It'll be 9 laps to go. Kyle Busch is your leader. Stewart second. Here they come. Good clean restart.
He couldn't go again. He spun a little bit that time.
Yeah, Tony Stewart.
I mean, he just couldn't get going again.
And that gives Dale Jr. a chance at second place. Stewart sends it in turn 3.
Dale Jr. cleared Tony off turn 4, and Jr. set sight on the little yellow car up there, Kyle Busch.
And we talked about how bad Kyle Busch wants to win. How about Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that 88? How much he wants to get Rick Hendrick that 200th win tonight.
Don't say that. We promised it wouldn't say that.
Oh, come on. Junior's drought is the longest since the Dust Bowl days. Let's see if he can run down Kyle Busch with 8 to go.
They've had a little history here, you know, through the years. Now, I'm sure they don't remember it, but we do.
Half a second.
You can see Dale Earnhardt Jr. just trying to get everything he can. You can see him sideways off turn 2 that time.
Kyle's been pretty good on the short run, and that's all we got here. So with 6 laps to go, the real battle is back here for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Those guys are running over each other.
Yep, Stewart 3rd, Hamlin, Kane, Jimmy Johnson 6th, Martin, Boyer, Keselowski, and Kenseth. Edwards 12th.
That time by
5 to go, Bud. 5.
Kyle ran at 21.70 and Dale run at 21.86.
Earnhardt gets a good run off the corner, brings the gap down. 0.64, 0.67. Kyle gets off turn 4 a little better.
Let's see what the lap times are this time by.
Even.
82 to an 82. Dead even.
But Mike, you're right. I think Kyle Busch is just a little stronger as he accelerates up off the corner right now.
You'll see the same interval we do down there at the bottom left of your screen.
It's 2 different ways to run the track. Kyle's backing off early, getting on it quicker. Junior's running it in hard and hoping it'll stick.
Oh, by the way, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 2 laps ago ran his fastest lap of this race.
Got no brakes.
Uh-oh.
Clean up brake pedal.
Oh, boy. That was Dale Jr. with 3 laps to go.
He's got a little bit of a cushion over Tony right now. Unless he just absolutely blows out all the whole brake system, he should be okay.
2 to go, and Kyle Busch increases that lead by 0.2.
He has pretty clean racetrack for this lap and a half in front of him.
It doesn't surprise me he doesn't have any brakes. Junior, he was driving that thing in like the throttle was stuck. White flag in the air.
Last night, he went to victory lane as a car owner with his older brother driving. Tonight, Kyle Busch scores his 24th career victory, 4 in a row for the Spring Richmond race.
You know what I do, Larry?
Weekend. Good job. Good job, fellas.
I take that thing and cover it up and not touch it till September.
Wow. 4 consecutive spring wins. They're still racing up here front stretch.
Good job, Rogers. Hey, some silly person told me my pictures in the spot. I'm not simple.
Kyle Busch ends a 20-race winless streak. Goes back to Michigan last August and becomes the 7th different race winner of 2012 and breaks a tie at 3 victories apiece with several drivers. He's now won 4 the last 4 spring races in a row here at Richmond.
I'd say that horse has found his course.
It's the 96th Sprint Cup victory for Joe Gibbs Racing. And their 9th at Richmond. Kyle Busch celebrates.
We welcome you to the Sprint Post-Race Show live from Richmond, Virginia, NASCAR on Fox, where Kyle Busch gets his first win of the year. Meanwhile, Carl Edwards led the most laps before a controversial call, and our Matt Yoakum is with Carl Edwards.
And disappointment on his face when he climbed into his race car. Dominating night. A lot of confusion and disappointment on your end. We're going to play you the restart, Carl, and you walk us through what took place from your vantage point.
All right. Try to not be too frustrated and say something stupid. So right before that start, my spotter Jason Hedleski was told by the NASCAR officials the 99's the leader. 99's the leader. Jason told me I had a split second to decide what I was going to do. I thought, okay, NASCAR made a mistake. They lined us up wrong. I was at a disadvantage being on the outside, so I thought I'm getting the best start I can get right now. I got the best start I could get. Looks like Tony waited or spun his tires. So they black flagged me. I still don't understand why they black flagged me. They said we were the leader. I restarted the best I could given the disadvantaged position I was in. So the problem is I don't know if NASCAR is going to take the stance that we shouldn't have started the race first or that I jumped the start. But if they're saying that I jumped the start, it'd be real frustrating because I started the same way I've started all night.
All right, thanks, Carl. Chris?
All right, thanks very much. Race control and not confirming what Edwards said he was told by his spotter. NASCAR saying that Tony Stewart, the 14 car, the leader the entire way.
Yeah, and Carl has a responsibility to know that he isn't the leader. He had been on pit road, so Tony Stewart was clearly the leader.
All right, down to our Dick Berggren and Kyle Busch in victory lane.
And Kyle climbing out of the race car now. What a record. Top 5 in every spring race he has ever run here. Congratulations, Kyle Busch. This place is your best racetrack of all with a 4th win here. Why are you so good at Richmond?
Great team, great cars.
Oh, you've done this with several teams.
Well, great team, great cars, and being aggressive when it matters, but yet trying to save your tires when you can. And, man, I don't know where that last caution came from, but that was our saving grace today. You know, I can't say enough about this M&M's Camry. It was a really good race car, you know, just didn't quite have enough on the long run like Stewart had. He was really, really good and beat us there, but can't say enough about Interstate, M&M's, Toyota, Monster Energy. Racing a Sprint Cup Series race car is fun, man, and want to thank the fans for being here. I know it was cold and rainy for them, but it was great to have them here with us, and I was pretty comfortable in that Butler seat tonight, so it felt good.
Congratulations. Steve?
Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished his second here at the Richmond International Raceway, and great finish. But Dale, my question was there anything you could have done with the 18 at the end?
No, we had some brake problems all race long, and I had a great restart, and I run really great for one lap, and then the pedal went back to the floor, and I just had to pump it up all the way down the straightaway, and I didn't have any front brakes getting in the corner, so I couldn't get in real hard to just get loose, locking the rears up. So even with the brakes working, I think the 18 was just a little bit better than us all night, but I want to thank National Guard and Diet Mountain Dew. My team had great stops. We gained a lot of spots on pit road, and you know, great race car by all the people at Hendricks. They do a great job, man. It's just been fun this year. Thank you, Dale. Thank you.
On paper, starting 22nd, finishing 3rd may look good, but I have a feeling when Tony Stewart goes to bed tonight, do you dream of the one that got away?
Well, when the caution's for a plastic bottle on the backstretch, it's hard to feel good about losing that one. And then we gave it away on pit road, so we did everything we could to throw it away. It got taken away from us. So, but that's the best car I've had at Richmond here in a long time. So I'm really, really proud of that. Proud of Steve Addington and proud of our guys. We got some work to do on pit stops right now. I don't know what their malfunction was, but I'm pretty ticked off about it tonight.
Thanks, Tony. Jeff?
Well, Jimmy Johnson, you brought her home 6th place, but a mistake on pit road may have cost you a win tonight.
Yeah, maybe. We had a couple little incidents there, but stuff happens. It's racing, and unfortunately we had a tire get away from us and had to serve that penalty and go to the back. But good news is we had a very fast race car. Last couple times, I guess last fall we were decent here, but this track's been real hit or miss, and to have a car that strong and to pass that many cars all night long, proud of the effort. Very thankful the slowest car was that strong. I certainly wish we didn't have the mistake, but when you're in the steel long enough, mistakes happen, and you just hate it when it lands on your shoulder, so I'm not going to beat anybody up.
Thank you for your time, Jimmy.
Right on, thanks.
All right, a tire here, jumped restart there. You heard Tony, you want cautions? There's cautions, and then he was all over his pit crew. But Kyle Busch, the bad boy of NASCAR, is back in victory lane. Wednesday's his 27th birthday, 24 career wins, 4 straight in the spring race for Richmond, and Kyle Busch on a crazy, unusual, unpredictable night. And this is how the points stand. After 9 races, Dale Earnhardt Jr., his 7th second-place finish in the last 138 races when he has not won, but up to second.
Yeah, I talked about how focused he was in the pre-race, how he was determined to have a big night tonight. He did that. Biffle fumbled a little bit, as did Truex, tightening the points up at the top.
And Kyle Busch, with the win, jumps up a couple of spots to 11th. Brad Keselowski already has a win, the all-important win when you get to the wild card if you're in the top 20 as we head down to the chase, a third of the way there.
Yeah, and he's got a fast car. He's struggled with some engine problems during the first part of this season, but look for Brad to be strong all season long. I love this battle for the championship, how close it is at the top.
Short track racing brought the excitement we had hoped down the stretch, including the caution that Tony Stewart is still steaming about coming up on Fox. For many of you, your late local news. Don't forget Major League Baseball next Saturday. Among the teams you'll be seeing, White Sox and Tigers, Brewers and Giants. Note the start time, 3:30 Eastern. That's 12:30 Pacific. And then next Sunday, Talladega. The most remarkable finish last season. Remember, we had 8 cars battling for the win at the line, and Jimmy Johnson took the checkered flag by 2 1/1000ths of a second. Jimmy still looking for that first win of this season. And if you want more on this race, tune in to Speed and Victory Lane for continuing coverage from Richmond and all your needs that are NASCAR. Michael, how would you sum up this evening?
A crazy night. Different guys dominating at different parts of the race. A cat coming into the night that we thought this was a big test for. Kyle Busch, could he pass the test? Standing in victory lane, I'd say he passed it just fine.
Well, a lot of controversy, including Carl Edwards and his crew still questioning the call on the restart. You had the tire with Jimmy Johnson, his pit crew, and of course you had the late caution, and then Tony Stewart, his pit crew, not responding under pressure.
And you've got to make those pit stops late in the going, and Tony had one get away, and obviously he wasn't too happy about that.
This has been a terrific night here on NASCAR, and we hope you join us next week from Talladega. From Michael Waltrip and our entire production crew, thanks for being a part of NASCAR on Fox as Kyle Busch leads Richmond a winner.